Hello there, and welcome to Dreamy Science. I'm so glad you're here. Maybe the day still lingers in your chest, a shimmer of noise, a breath of motion, but now you're drifting into something slower, something older. Tonight, we follow the quiet trails of cosmic dust, those gentle grains scattered through the fabric of space, drifting between stars, carried on light and born in the hearts of ancient suns. These tiny particles hold the memory of creation and the promise of planets. They gather in clouds, sparkle in comets, and shimmer in nebulae like stardust dreams. There's no need to understand it all. Just breathe, just rest. Let the dust settle. If these calm explorations help you unwind, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps more quiet minds find their way here, one sleepy soul at a time. Between the stars, there is not silence, but softness. A haze of drifting particles weaves through the dark, older than memory. This dust is not the kind you wipe away. It is starlight slowed to a whisper, fragments of hydrogen and carbon and silicate moving like mist across the vastness. These grains scatter light, creating the pale glow we see as nebulae, gentle clouds that cradle the birthplaces of new stars. Some drift for millions of years, untouched, shimmering faintly with the heat of distant suns. In this quiet drift, they absorb stories, the residue of supernova, the breath of red giants, the echoes of ancient collisions. It is through this dust that light bends, softens, glows. It veils the harshness of the vacuum, wrapping the galaxy in layers of shimmer and time. You are not separate from this. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, once rode through the galaxy as dust. You are the child of particles that wandered between stars, and even now, while you rest, that dust continues its quiet journey, surrounding you in a cosmos not empty, but full of drifting memory, of potential, of softness, a space not of silence, but of hush, a lullaby made not of sound, but of stillness. When stars begin to die, they do not vanish. They exhale, and in that breath, dust is born. It is a cosmic sigh, a release of everything they once held tight. In their final stages, red giants swell and cast off their outer layers in slow, glowing waves, scattering elements forged in their cores. This expelled dust, carbon, oxygen, iron, drifts outward, cooling and clustering in delicate formations. Planetary nebulae bloom around the fading light, like petals unfurling around an ember. And in the grander depths of massive stars, supernovae hurl their contents across space in a brilliant final act, leaving behind clouds of enriched material. From this dust, new worlds will one day form. It is not an end, but a transfer. What was once the heart of a star becomes the seed of planets, moons, and maybe even life. The dust from dying suns is the origin of mountain stone and ocean salt. It finds its way into comets, into atmospheres, into the roots of life itself. To rest beneath the stars is to lie beneath the breath of generations of suns. It is to be surrounded by the remnants of old light, not lost, but transformed. And so the universe cycles on, quietly, gracefully, one breath, then another, one death, then birth. And in the quiet between those moments, you are held. Even the tiniest grain of dust can be moved by light. Photons brush past, nudging them across galaxies. This isn't force in the way we usually imagine. It's gentler, a nudge, a shimmer, a slow unfolding. A single ray of starlight, traveling for years, might gently tap a speck no larger than a virus, setting it adrift through the quiet sea between stars. These grains, suspended in the cosmic dark, are shaped not just by gravity, but by radiance. Light gives direction, light gives motion, and in time, these motions become migrations, flowing rivers of interstellar dust, carving unseen paths through the Milky Way. This process, called radiation pressure, is how light leaves fingerprints on matter. It's how dust becomes organized, scattered, swept into the arms of galaxies, drawn into the glow of nebulae, or carried like pollen across solar systems. Even comets leave behind trails of such dust, shifted by sunlight, dancing behind them like whispers. And from this slow choreography, new things emerge. Planetary rings, halos of gas, hazes that soften alien skies. In the grand stillness of the universe, it is light that moves things forward. It is light that whispers to the smallest, unseen fragments. Drift here, now drift there. And in that drifting, new beginnings unfold. You do not need to rush. Even dust finds its way, gently moved by light. Before Earth was solid, dust already wandered. Ancient particles floated through space long before oceans formed. These grains are relics from before our sun was born, before any planet coalesced. They emerge from the depths of stars, flung into the void during supernovae and stellar size, then cooled, wandered, and aged in silence. Some of this dust remained unchanged for billions of years, carrying the memory of ancient suns like fossils in motion. Long before Earth's crust hardened, these particles spun through the galaxy, slipping between magnetic fields, collecting starlight, brushing past gas clouds. They witnessed the early spirals of our galaxy's arms, the cooling of distant worlds, and the assembling of solar systems that would one day fade away. Eventually, some drifted into the cradle of our forming solar system, swept up in the spinning disk of gas and rock that became the sun and its planets. These grains were among the first to arrive, the earliest seeds. Some became embedded in meteorites, others helped birth moons, oceans, minerals, and some, astonishingly, still fall today. Quiet fragments from the sky, older than any mountain they land upon. To hold one in your palm would be to cradle something more ancient than Earth itself. So sleep now, beneath the sky still filled with drifting elders. They are above you, around you, resting in the dust on your windowsill. The past has not vanished, it merely floats. Every mote of cosmic dust is a relic, a tiny capsule holding the memory of a star's farewell, formed in the furnace of stellar cores or in the soft exhale of dying suns. These grains are timekeepers of the cosmos. They remember fusion, they remember collapse, they carry within them the temperature of creation and the slow cool of drifting. Some are crystalline, shaped by heat and pressure. Others are amorphous, chaotic and soft, formed in cooler winds and gentler outflows. Trapped inside them are clues to the star that birthed them, the space they traveled, the magnetic fields they brushed against, the starlight that warmed them. They are messengers, drifting without hurry. Some fall into our solar system and land inside meteorites, which are cracked open by scientists who read them like ancient books. In these fragments, we find atoms untouched for billions of years, unspoiled by weather or time. They speak of explosions, of gravity, of long silence, and somehow, in their stillness, they tell us everything. A single grain may have moved through dozens of star systems before reaching Earth. It may have passed planets that no longer exist, may have witnessed nothing but dark for eons, then suddenly caught the warmth of a young sun. You may never see one, but they are there, above you, below you, settling softly in the night. The stars speak, not always in light, but in dust. Some of the sky's light is not from stars at all. It's dust, scattering, glowing, veiling the heavens with shimmer. This gentle radiance, called zodiacal light, is sunlight diffused by countless particles spread through the plane of our solar system. Just before dawn or after sunset, when the sun is below the horizon, this glow appears as a faint column rising along the ecliptic, almost like a ghost of the day. It's not a beam, not a spotlight. It's more like the softest memory of warmth, lingering in deep deserts or high mountains where the night is untouched by artificial lights. You can see it clearly, a veil of brightness, not tied to any single star. And beyond the solar system, far beyond the planets and comets, dust continues to glow. In distant nebulae, it catches ultraviolet light and re-emits it in soft colors, painting the sky with blues and pinks, purples and golds. This glow is not an accident. It is the quiet work of dust, scattering, bending, softening. It is the reason the Milky Way has edges that blur, halos that hum. It is why some parts of the sky seem to breathe, even in darkness. There is motion, and even in silence, there is light. Tonight, as you drift to sleep, the sky glows, not just with stars, but with the dust between them. A slow, silent shimmer that never stops moving, never stops glowing, never stops whispering. The iron in your blood was once suspended in stellar ash. You carry the sky inside you, long before you took your first breath. Long before Earth cooled or oceans formed, the building blocks of your body were scattered across the galaxy. Stars lived and died to make you. Massive suns fused lighter elements into iron, and when they reached the end of their lives, they released that iron in cataclysmic supernovae, violent endings that were also beginnings. That stellar dust drifted for eons, quiet and patient, until gravity gathered it into clouds, into worlds, into cells, calcium in your bones, carbon in your skin, oxygen in your lungs, all of it born in stars, then folded into life. When you breathe, you do so with the atoms of stars. When you sleep, you rest in a body woven from the remnants of nebulae. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are a continuation of it. Your heartbeat echoes a rhythm written long ago in the fusion pulses of distant suns. And when you feel small beneath the sky, remember you are its memory, walking. You are not looking at the stars. You are part of them, the same dust that glows in Saturn's rings and drifts through nebulae now whispers in your cells. The universe is not out there. It is within you, always. The rings of Saturn shine because of dust, billions of icy grains reflecting light, like a frozen hush. From afar, they look like smooth, golden bands, sculpted by some invisible hand. But up close, they are clouds of countless particles, from house-sized ice boulders to grains no larger than sugar. Each one moves in its own orbit, caught in Saturn's gravity, circling endlessly in a luminous dance. The dust within them acts like mist in morning light, scattering the sun's glow into soft radiance. Saturn's rings are not the only ones. Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune have them too, thinner, fainter, but still adorned in dusty halos. These rings are the remains of shattered moons, passing comets, or ancient collisions held aloft by physics and time. Some particles clump, some drift apart, but all reflect the light with quiet persistence. This ring dust tells us of change, of movement, of impermanence. It is a moment stretched across millennia, a frozen breath still turning. When you gaze at Saturn through a telescope, you're witnessing sunlight bounce off millions of icy echoes, a celestial hush circling endlessly, painting the void with brilliance. Even dust, when gathered, becomes a masterpiece. Even silence, when frozen, can shine. In the wombs of stars, dust gathers like mist. It floats in silence, waiting for gravity's touch. These are the nurseries of the cosmos, vast clouds of gas and dust where new stars slowly begin to take shape. The dust within them is ancient, recycled from dying suns and shattered worlds, drifting softly until it meets others like itself. Over time, gravity pulls the grains together, compressing them, warming them, stirring the beginnings of fusion. But before the stars ignite, the nebula remains dim and diffuse, a twilight place where light scatters through the haze and shadows stretch gently between filaments. From afar, these clouds appear as ethereal shapes: a horse's head, a veil, an eagle, a rose. They glow faintly in blues, purples, and soft reds, not from the dust itself, but from the way dust sculpts the starlight around it. Within the nebula, dust clings to gas, veils newborn stars, and mutes their early brilliance. It shields them as they form, protecting them from radiation, holding heat like a blanket. These clouds are not chaotic. They move slowly, responding to unseen forces, breathing over spans of millions of years. And just like fog along an earthly coast, this cosmic mist invites stillness. No wind, no voice, only the slow drift of possibility. When you look up at a nebula, you're seeing dust not as ruin, but as promise. A quiet fog from which stars will rise. The reds and golds of dusk are not just light. They are the signature of dust scattered thin in the air. When the sun sinks low, its light must travel through more of Earth's atmosphere. Along this long path, the shorter blue wavelengths are scattered away, first by air, then by tiny particles of dust suspended high above. What remains reaches you in amber, rose, crimson, and gold. Each sunset is a painting made not only by sunlight, but by the invisible hands of dust. From deserts, from oceans, from distant volcanoes, these fine grains drift and hover, catching and bending the light. Even after storms or wildfires, the sky burns deeper, richer, because of the dust lingering quietly above. No two sunsets are alike, because no two dust veils are ever the same. Some days the colors are soft pastels, other days they blaze like fire. It is dust that sculpts this moment of wonder. Dust that came from stone, from wind, from far-off lands. And though it is light that dazzles the eye, it is dust that gives the light its voice. As night approaches, the sky cools and the colors fade, but the dust remains, still drifting, still scattering. It is the painter behind the palette, the hush behind the beauty. So when you watch the sun go down, remember, you are witnessing the work of countless invisible grains, whispering color into the close of day. Some galaxies shimmer faintly, not from stars, but from the soft haze of dust. Cloaked and quiet, it shapes what we see. This dust drapes across spiral arms, veils glowing cores, and settles between clusters like a cosmic breath. In edge-on galaxies, it forms dark bands that slash across the light, not absence, but presence. It is this quiet dust that sculpts the silhouette of the Milky Way in our own night sky, giving it texture, depth, and mystery. Without it, the stars would shine too harsh, the shapes too sharp. Dust softens everything. It gathers in clouds that block light entirely, creating places of darkness where stars are being born. It spreads in filaments that stretch between galaxies, forming invisible bridges of shadowed light. To astronomers, it is both a veil and a map, something to peer through, but also something that reveals. It glows in the infrared, hinting at its shape, its temperature, its movement. And though it hides stars, it also cradles them. In the places where dust is thickest, life begins. A galaxy's shimmer is not just from stars, but from the interplay between glow and shadow, between light and the dust that bends it. And so, the universe is not made only of the bright. It is the dim, the hidden, the quiet shimmer in the dark that gives galaxies their soul. Out near the edge of space, dust freezes into crystal. Closer in, it dances through heat and flare. Cosmic dust is not a single thing. It is many, shaped by its surroundings, by temperature, by light. In the cold reaches far from stars where warmth is scarce and darkness is deep, grains of dust become icy. Water, ammonia, methane, all freeze onto their surfaces, layer upon layer, forming delicate mantles that glint like glass. These frozen grains drift in comets, in Kuiper belts, in distant clouds where stars have not yet stirred. They reflect the faintest light, pale and silent, but closer to heat, the story changes. Near stars, the ice sublimates, and the bare grains tumble through waves of radiation. Some vaporize in flares, others glow as they absorb and release energy. In dusty disks around young suns, particles swirl in heat, crashing, melting, reforming. Here, dust becomes molten, forged into droplets that may one day form planets. The same material that freezes in one corner of the galaxy blazes in another. Fire and frost, side by side, both made of stardust, both essential. This contrast reminds us, even the smallest things respond to their environment. Even dust adapts, transforms, and survives. As you rest tonight, imagine those grains, some like ash, others like snow, drifting across the universe, shaped by warmth, sculpted by cold, never still, never alone. Comets trail dust that remembers the dawn. As they pass the sun, they shed their ancient veils. These icy wanderers are not just frozen relics. They are time capsules, carrying dust that has barely changed since the birth of the solar system. Preserved in the deep cold of the Kuiper Belt and Oort cloud, cometary dust has escaped the heat, pressure, and collisions that altered other materials. When a comet nears the sun, warmth begins to stir its surface. Ice sublimates, jets erupt, and embedded dust is set free, a long tail unfurling behind it like a sigh. Each fleck that peels away is older than Earth's mountains, older than rain. Some of this dust lingers in the comet's wake, forming meteor showers when Earth passes through the trail. You've seen it, silent streaks across a summer night, the brief flare of a grain that remembers the beginning. Scientists collect these particles with high-altitude planes or space missions, reading their contents like ancient texts. Inside, they find amino acids, silicates, carbon chains, the raw ingredients of life, delivered gently across time. Each comet that circles back brings another whisper from the edge of the system, and as they erode, they are not vanishing, they are giving, sharing their oldest memories with the sky. And so, as you sleep, know this: some dust falling toward Earth tonight began its journey long before the moon rose. It is not lost, it is returning. Micrometeorites pelted the moon for eons. The fine dust they left behind is older than the seas. Without an atmosphere to shield it, the moon has always stood bare beneath the sky. Every grain of space dust, every micrometeorite striking without resistance. Over billions of years, this constant rain sculpted the lunar surface, grinding rock into powder, carving silence into soil. This fine layer, called regolith, covers the moon in a soft gray hush. It is deceptively still, but every particle tells of impact. Sharp-edged, glassy, and dry, moon dust is the residue of collisions older than any life on Earth. It holds no water, but it holds history. Some of it dates back to the very formation of the solar system, untouched by wind, by rain, by time's soft erasure. Apollo astronauts walked upon it, sank into it, brought it home. In their samples, we find the story of an unprotected world, one shaped not by oceans or tectonics, but by the patient fall of dust. The moon's glow, its soft light in your window, is born not just from rock, but from this ancient skin. And tonight, as that light touches your room, you are seeing the quiet result of eons of dust, falling, layering, remembering. The seas may shift, but lunar dust endures, keeping the memory of the sky etched in every grain. Before a star can burn, it must gather. And what it gathers first is dust. In the vast arms of galaxies, enormous clouds of gas and dust drift in the cold, slow currents of space. These regions, known as molecular clouds or stellar nurseries, appear dark to our eyes, veils against the starlight beyond, but within their shadows, gravity begins to whisper. Tiny perturbations cause the dust to clump, to spiral inward, to compress. With each quiet collapse, pressure rises, and dust merges with gas in a dance as old as time. The process is slow, stretched over millions of years, but in the heart of the growing core, something stirs. Heat, friction, motion. Dust becomes cradle. It shields the newborn star from harsh radiation, allowing it to grow, to gather strength. Eventually, fusion ignites, and a star is born, not with a roar, but with a glow, a soft flare in the fabric of night. Surrounding it, the leftover dust begins to spin and flatten, forming disks that may one day become planets, moons, comets. Without dust, there is no gathering. Without gathering, no fire. And so, the grand brilliance of stars begins not with blaze, but with silence, with grains adrift, waiting to be pulled inward. As you rest tonight, remember, the light that reaches you began in a cloud of dust, shaped not by force alone, but by patience. The moon's surface is cloaked in a fine, quiet powder, dust that bears the footprints of machines and of memory. This dust, formed by countless micrometeorite impacts over billions of years, blankets the moon in a layer of gray, powdery stillness. Without wind or water, the lunar dust remains exactly where it falls, sharp, dry, and clinging. It is not like Earth's dust. It is jagged, untouched by erosion, and charged with sunlight. It coats rocks, fills craters, and holds the weight of every step ever taken on the moon. The impressions left by astronauts in 1969 are still there, perfectly preserved. The lunar rover's tracks remain etched in this alien soil. Even the dust kicked up by landing modules has not settled differently. It is memory made physical, a diary written without ink. But this dust is not just a record of humans. It is also a record of space, formed from the slow grind of meteorites, of solar wind, of time itself. Some of it contains particles older than the moon itself, carried from beyond our system, each grain a witness, each fleck a fragment of ancient violence and quiet light. And as the moon rises each night, its soft glow reflects this history, a surface shaped not by tide or storm, but by the patient layering of celestial time. Look up. Somewhere in that light is the dust of memory, holding still. Sometimes all of Mars disappears, not from distance, but beneath a rising sea of dust. The red planet, dry and windswept, is home to some of the most powerful dust storms in the solar system. What begins as a whisper, a slight breeze brushing across a dusty plain, can grow into a world-shrouding tempest. Grains of iron-rich sand are lifted into the thin air, scattering sunlight and cloaking the sky in burnt orange. These storms can last for weeks, circling the planet in a veil that hides craters, mountains, even the sun itself. They swirl across ancient lake beds, climb the walls of Valles Marineris, sweep over Olympus Mons. From orbit, Mars becomes a blurred sphere, its features obscured, its history momentarily erased. Rovers fall silent under thickening skies, solar panels coated in a fine red hush. But in this fury, there is no chaos, only movement, only rhythm. The dust carries memory of once flowing rivers, of vanished seas, of a time when the planet may have been warm and wet. It is not dead, only dreaming. And when the winds calm, the dust settles again, painting new patterns across the landscape, a quiet return after the storm's breath. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, imagine standing on that silent world, the sky dimmed to rust, the horizon lost in swirl. Mars still breathes, not in air, but in dust. Even as they vanish, meteors leave a trace, a faint trail of dust, glowing and falling. When a meteor streaks through Earth's atmosphere, it arrives fast, a fragment of space rock or ice, burning bright in friction's embrace. But even after that luminous arc fades, it leaves something behind, a whisper-thin trail of dust, invisible to most, still drifting high above the ground. These trails linger in the upper atmosphere, where winds slowly stretch and disperse them, weaving them into the sky's quiet fabric. Over time, this dust settles downward, joining the constant rain of cosmic material that sifts gently through our air every day. You breathe it, you walk through it. It lands on mountaintops, on oceans, on rooftops in sleeping cities. During meteor showers, this process intensifies. More trails, more glow, more drifting particles. Some of this dust contains rare elements, formed in stars long gone. A speck on your windowsill may have seen the collapse of a sun. It may have wandered for eons, untouched, until its journey ended in a brief flare and a quiet fall. The sky is not empty. It is layered with stories of movement, of arrival, of dust that marks the passage of something once brilliant. So next time you see a shooting star, remember, its light is not the end. The dust lingers, the memory falls. Those pale, delicate bands are not solid. They are made of countless pieces of icy dust, dancing in gravity's rhythm. Up close, Saturn's rings are not smooth ribbons, but intricate tapestries of motion, composed of particles ranging in size from boulders to fine powdery grains. They orbit in precise harmony, caught between the planet's pull and the push of its many moons. Sunlight glints off their icy surfaces, and from afar, this shimmer becomes the soft, golden glow we associate with Saturn's halo. But it's the dust within the rings that gives them their ethereal grace. These tiny floating fragments scatter light like mist, blurring the edges of form and shadow. They cluster in waves, in braided patterns, shaped by gravitational nudges, forming ever-changing landscapes that circle endlessly. Moons like Pan and Daphnis carve thin gaps in the rings, sculpting edges and sending ripples through the dust, like the surface of a calm lake disturbed by breeze. And still, the rings endure, a celestial symphony in slow motion where every grain plays a part. As Saturn spins, so too does this luminous orchestra, encircling it in a hush of frozen light. Look long enough, and you begin to sense time differently, not as hours or days, but as orbits and echoes. Tonight, if you close your eyes, you might hear it, not sound, but rhythm, the silent shimmering dance of dust around a distant world. When stars explode, they leave behind light and dust. It spreads, slow and glowing, through the black. A supernova is one of the most powerful events in the cosmos, a star's final breath. So luminous, it can outshine entire galaxies for a time. But beyond the blaze and the fury, it leaves behind something quieter: dust. Forged in the heat of collapse, this dust carries the rarest elements: gold, uranium, platinum, the final offerings of a life spent in fusion. Cast into the void at immense speed, these particles eventually slow, cool, and begin to drift. Some cluster into glowing clouds, known as supernova remnants, like the Crab Nebula or Cassiopeia A, radiant shells of gas and dust expanding gently across space. This dust is not just the past, it is the beginning of something new. Over millennia, it mingles with gas in the galaxy, enriching it, seeding future generations of stars and planets. Even now, some of the dust floating between stars carries the signature of ancient explosions. It may take millions of years to find a home, but it does not vanish. It journeys onward through spiral arms, through nebulae, through solar systems yet to awaken. When you look at the stars, remember, not all their light is gone. Some of it still lingers, not as flame, but as dust. And in that dust, the echo of creation drifts on. There are grains adrift that have never landed, always moving, always waiting, suspended between stars. These are the eternal wanderers, particles untouched by planets, unclaimed by moons, unshaped by atmosphere or gravity wells. They slip through the arms of galaxies, drifting along magnetic fields, following slow tides of motion that span light years. Neither anchored nor erased, they remain in constant gentle travel. These grains are too small to see, but they leave their presence in everything. In the way starlight dims just slightly, in the way shadows soften between constellations, in the way the universe never feels truly empty. Some of this dust has circled the galactic core multiple times without ever falling. Some has passed close to suns and still escaped. Some has wandered since before our Earth was born. And so it floats between systems, between epochs, a delicate shimmer of potential. It may someday be drawn into a newborn solar system, may become part of a comet, a planet, or a living cell, or it may continue drifting forever, anonymous and unhurried. In the great silence of space, it is these quiet travelers that remind us of scale, of patience, of the slowness that shapes everything. As you fall asleep, picture them, not falling, not forgotten, but gliding gently through the deep, waiting, always waiting, in the soft hush between the stars. Even light slows for dust. It curves, scatters, and shimmers, painting halos around the distant. When light encounters dust in space, it does not pass untouched. It dances. Dust grains, often smaller than a wavelength of light, act as soft sculptors of radiance, redirecting, diffusing, tinting. The result is a halo, a glow, a softened edge to the sharp points of distant stars. This scattering, called interstellar extinction, dims the light but also reveals texture, showing us where the dust lies, where it thickens, where it flows. Around young stars, these halos seem to pulse and shift as light slips through ever-changing veils. In distant nebulae, dust spins starlight into shimmering waves of violet gold and deep indigo. Even the Milky Way's soft band across the night sky owes part of its glow to dust diffusing the collective light of billions of suns. Sometimes, light reflects directly off dust, like fog in a forest catching moonlight, and creates reflection, nebulae, where the light is blue, scattered just as our sky ray is during the day. And so dust, though small, becomes a painter, not just an obstacle, but a medium, not erasing light, but reshaping it. As you rest, know that the stars you see twinkle not just from atmosphere, but from ancient dust playing with light across impossible distances, a slow, radiant ballet still unfolding above you. Around young stars, dust gathers in rings. In time, it clumps, collides, and becomes something more. These glowing disks, called protoplanetary disks, are the quiet forges of worlds. At first, they are soft spirals of dust and gas, drifting in the afterglow of a newly ignited star. Within these luminous halos, dust grains begin a slow, patient dance. They collide gently, stick together, drift inward or outward, depending on their size and charge. Some are swept into eddies by young planetary embryos. Others settle into thin mid-planes, where gravity begins its delicate work. Over thousands of years, specks become pebbles, pebbles become boulders, boulders become planetesimals, the seeds of planets, the airless rocks beneath our feet, the shimmering ice of moons, the golden haze of atmospheres. All of it begins here in dust. The orbits form, the collisions build, and from a haze no thicker than fog, entire solar systems are born. Even the gas giants, vast as they are, trace their beginnings to tiny particles spinning in sunlight. These disks fade over millions of years, their dust gathered into larger bodies or blown away by stellar winds. But in the quiet before that, while they still glow, they cradle the beginnings of everything. Tonight, as you close your eyes, picture one of those disks turning softly around a distant star, and know that every world, even ours, began in a ring of light and dust. Some dust grains hum with hidden energy. Aligned by invisible forces, they spin softly in fields. In the vast reaches between stars, where silence reigns and temperatures fall near absolute zero, certain grains of dust respond to more than just gravity and light. They align themselves with magnetic fields that thread through space like unseen rivers. These grains, often elongated or asymmetric, spin rapidly, not from collision, but from interaction with photons, gas, and the quantum nudge of magnetic energy. This spin, faint and fast, causes them to emit polarized light, a subtle signature that astronomers can detect, revealing the hidden structure of magnetic fields across the galaxy. These fields shape the motion of gas and dust alike, guiding the formation of stars, influencing the flow of matter through nebulae. Though invisible to the eye, their presence can be mapped through the glow of aligned dust. This quiet choreography, dust humming, spinning, aligning, reveals an order beneath the seeming chaos of the cosmos, and it reminds us that even the smallest things can be tuned to forces far greater than themselves. Tonight, above you, some of the light reaching Earth carries this signature, not just brightness, but orientation, not just particles, but pattern. Sleep knowing that the universe is not random, but threaded with direction, and that even drifting dust finds its rhythm. Dust reveals what starlight hides. Its pattern traces spirals, arms, and long-forgotten flows. Though small and nearly invisible, cosmic dust becomes a map of motion when scattered across the canvas of a galaxy. It clings to the arms of spirals, outlines their graceful arcs, and pools in dense regions where stars are born. In edge-on galaxies, dust weaves dark streaks across the brilliant plane, casting shadows that reveal the depth and structure of the disk. These shadows are not flaws, they are the fingerprints of form. Dust shows us where gas is gathering, where light is blocked, where history has left a mark. It gathers where gravity has pulled things tight, or where supernovae have pushed things outward. It forms bridges between galaxies that once brushed past each other, tracing the lingering wake of cosmic tides. Even in the Milky Way, the dark rifts you see in the summer sky, those gashes in the glow are lanes of dust, hiding and revealing the shape of our home. Without it, galaxies would seem flatter, more hollow, less alive. With it, they breathe, they ripple, they remember. Dust gives galaxies their contours, their shadows, their softness. So as you imagine the sky tonight, picture the swirling forms dust has traced across the stars, outlines drawn not with ink, but with time. Tiny visitors fall onto rooftops and rivers. Every day, cosmic dust joins our world unnoticed. From the vastness of space, thousands of tons of micrometeorites drift down to Earth each year. These are not fireballs or blazing trails across the sky. They are small, silent, often no larger than grains of sand. They arrive without fanfare, sifting through the atmosphere, slowed by air and scattered by wind. Some fall into oceans, some onto snowfields, some settle gently on city streets or forest leaves. Most go unnoticed, blending into the dust of everyday life. But beneath microscopes, they reveal themselves, tiny spheres of iron, porous fragments of ancient rock, bits of carbon that once floated between the stars. Some formed in the early days of the solar system. Others came from comets or asteroids that wandered too close to Earth's path, and still others, astonishingly, may hold matter from beyond our system. Interstellar, whispers carried on solar wind. Scientists collect them from rooftops, meltwater, even Antarctica's ice. In these grains are messages written long before humans walked the Earth. They do not announce their arrival, they simply fall quietly, faithfully. As you sleep, some of this stardust may be settling near you, on your roof, your garden, your window pane. The cosmos, always arriving, one grain at a time, not with voice, but with vibration. Dust hums gently in frequencies we cannot hear. Across the deep silence of space, dust grains spin, not wildly, but with delicate precision. Many of them, shaped unevenly and charged by ultraviolet light or collisions with gas particles, begin to rotate rapidly. Some spin thousands of times per second, like tiny cosmic tops suspended in the dark. This motion creates faint electromagnetic signals, a quiet, steady hum that radiates outward in the form of microwave and radio waves. Though imperceptible to our ears, telescopes tuned to these long wavelengths can hear it. This emission, called anomalous microwave radiation, is a signature of dust too small and too distant to be seen with light, but it still speaks. In its own language of rotation and resonance, through these signals, Astronomers trace the shape of dusty clouds, map the interstellar medium, and listen for the subtle shifts in energy that mark the presence of ancient, drifting matter. The song is not melodic, it is not words, but it is persistent, a cosmic lullaby echoing in the radio shadows of galaxies. It reminds us that the smallest things still have motion, that silence is not the same as stillness. Tonight, as you rest in quiet, know that the universe hums gently all around you, a song without sound, carried on the spin of dust. There is no true vacuum. Even between galaxies, dust drifts, slow, silent, unseen. Far from stars, far from the bright spirals of galaxies, the universe still holds presence. In the vast reaches of intergalactic space, where darkness seems endless and time stretches wide, tiny grains continue to move. They do not glow, they do not collide often, but they are there, scattered across the cosmic web like forgotten whispers. Some are relics from early stars, pushed out by supernova winds. Others are fragments, torn free during galaxy collisions, flung into the void like seeds in wind. They drift between clusters, pass through filaments of invisible gas, and respond faintly to gravity's call. This dust is rare, thin, barely measurable, but it matters. It helps cool hot gas. It affects how light travels. It carries the history of motion across scales too large to imagine. Even in what we call the emptiest parts of space, the story continues, not in loud chapters, but in drifting commas. You cannot see it, but it is there, a slow settling of presence, a reminder that the universe is not built from grand events alone, but from quiet persistence. As you fall asleep, let that comfort you. Nothing is ever truly empty, not the night sky, not the space between, not even you. Though invisible to our eyes, dust glows with warmth. It radiates softly, a hidden light. In the cold depths of space, dust grains absorb the energy of starlight. Not enough to burn, but enough to stir. They warm gently, often just a few degrees above absolute zero, and then release that warmth in the form of infrared radiation. This glow is invisible to human eyes, but not to the sensitive instruments of space telescopes. Through infrared lenses, what once seemed empty reveals its secrets: glowing filaments, veiled stars, dusty nebulae blooming with quiet color. In these wavelengths, galaxies pulse with hidden life, and dark clouds unveil their tangled, luminous threads. Infrared light lets us peer into star-forming regions still cloaked in shadow. It reveals the heat of planets, the outlines of protoplanetary disks, and the faint breath of distant comets. Even the most ancient galaxies, their visible light stretched by the expanding universe, whisper to us in infrared, and dust is the medium through which that whisper flows. It does not blaze, it does not blind. It glows with a hush, a warm echo in the void. Tonight, as your eyes close, imagine that hidden light, soft and slow, drifting across time. You may not see it, but above you, the universe glows gently on. The sun does not shine alone. It breathes. And with each breath, dust is carried outward. From the fiery surface of the sun, a constant stream of charged particles flows outward in all directions. This is the solar wind, an invisible breath that stretches far beyond the planets, shaping the very edge of the solar system. As it expands, it sweeps up dust particles, guiding and sculpting their paths. Some are pushed outward, away from the sun, their tiny masses nudged by radiation pressure. Others spiral slowly inward, drawn by gravity and slowed by the drag of light itself. This delicate balance creates glowing trails around comets, bends dust into ribbons that arc around planetary orbits, and forms the zodiacal light, that faint shimmer seen at twilight, born of dust drifting in sunlight's path. Every grain caught in this solar wind becomes a traveler, its journey shaped by the breath of our star. Some are remnants of ancient collisions, some are whispers from distant asteroids, some merely pass through on their way to nowhere in particular. but all are touched by the sun, warmed, moved, sent onward. And so, our star does not only light the sky, it stirs the space around it into motion. As you rest tonight, imagine the sun still breathing, gently, endlessly, and dust floating on that breath. Like golden pollen in an invisible breeze, dust can obscure a star and reveal a nebula. It both hides and highlights the cosmos. In space, dust is not merely a screen. It is a lens, a sculptor, a veil. When it lies thick between us and a distant star, it dims the light, turns brilliance into hush, and hides even the brightest suns behind a soft blur. Entire regions of the sky can vanish behind dark dust lanes, not because the stars aren't there, but because their light cannot pass through. Yet this same dust, when illuminated from the side, reveals the outlines of clouds' arms and the hidden structure of galaxies. It carves silhouettes into starlight, shaping light into shadows, shadows into meaning. And where light grazes dust rather than piercing it, reflection occurs. A glow, a soft echo, as photons bounce and scatter into the dark. The Pleiades shimmer this way, surrounded by a halo of blue dust that does not emit light, but reflects it. Dust plays both roles, concealment and revelation. It shields forming stars, protecting them in their fragile infancy. It hides light, yes, but only so that another kind of beauty may emerge, a contrast, a contour, a hidden shape unveiled. So much of what we see in the night sky is defined by what we cannot see directly. As you drift into sleep, know that the universe is not simply dark or light. It is a conversation between the two, and dust in quiet motion carries the message. Those soft clouds are lit by more than gas. Dust catches light and sculpts it into shape. Nebulae, the glowing clouds scattered through the galaxy, are not made only of hydrogen or ionized gas. Dust weaves through them, fine and delicate, adding texture to their forms. It scatters starlight, softens harsh edges, and creates the gentle gradients of color that make nebulae shimmer like stained glass. In reflection, nebulae dust is the main actor. Blue light scattered more efficiently than red, giving these clouds their cool glow. In emission nebulae, where gas blazes with light from newborn stars, dust adds shadow, contour, and depth. It is the dust that outlines the dark horses, the veils, the pillars, all those familiar shapes carved against brighter backdrops. Without dust, a nebula would be a flat, glowing smear. With it, the cosmos becomes layered, three-dimensional, full of contrast and story. Dust hides what is not ready to be seen and reveals what light alone cannot shape. Some of the most iconic images of space, the Eagle Nebulas, pillars of creation, the Horsehead Nebula, the Trifid, owe their drama, their softness, and their mystery to the quiet presence of dust. So the next time you see a picture of a nebula glowing in pastel reds and starlit blues, remember, it is dust that makes the light dance. It is dust that gives the void its form. Just before dawn or after sunset, a faint glow lingers. That's dust caught in solar light. It rises like a pale flame from the horizon, a soft triangle of light stretching upward along the path of the sun. Many miss it, mistaking it for the fading remnants of twilight or the first hint of morning. But this glow, the zodiacal light, is something older, quieter. It's created by sunlight scattering off, countless grains of dust orbiting the sun in the same plane as the planets. These particles, remnants of comets and colliding asteroids, form a broad, invisible disk that envelopes our solar system. Too fine to be seen individually, they collectively reflect just enough light to paint the sky with this subtle glow. The zodiacal light appears brightest where the dust is densest, near the ecliptic, and vanishes in the brightness of the moon or city glare. But in dark places, under still skies, it shines like a soft memory of day, suspended in the hush of night. To witness it is to see the solar system not just in planets and moons, but in motion and dust, in light made visible by what lingers between. Tonight, if you find yourself awake before dawn or drifting after dusk, look to the horizon. The sky may be telling a quiet story of dust still turning, still glowing, still holding the light. Not all dust is local. Some arrive from distant supernovae, traveling for millions of years. These grains began their journey in distant corners of the galaxy, born in the final breaths of stars long extinguished. When massive suns reached the end of their lives, they exploded in supernovae, scattering their enriched interiors into the void. Among the debris were tiny particles, silicates, carbon compounds, rare metals, cast outward with immense force. For eons, they drifted through space, past nebulae, around stars, across the spiral arms of the galaxy. Some rode on shockwaves, some were steered by magnetic fields, and some simply floated, untouched, unseen. A few of these grains eventually found their way here, into our solar system, through its protective boundaries, and onto Earth itself. Scientists have discovered them embedded in meteorites and even trapped in ancient Antarctic ice. Their chemical signatures betray their origin, not from our sun, not from nearby comets, but from stars millions of light years away. These particles are messengers from across time, carrying the story of cosmic death and rebirth. They are older than our oceans, older than the Earth itself, older than the light we see from many stars above. As you rest, remember, stardust is not a metaphor. It is real, and some of it, from places you'll never see, now quietly dwells in the soil, the sea, and perhaps even in you. Tiny enough to be forgotten, patient enough to cross the Milky Way. It begins unnoticed, a particle smaller than a whisper, drifting through the outskirts of a dying star. Carried outward by stellar winds, it slips into the wide river of galactic motion. There, in the soft currents, between the stars, it begins its long journey. Not quickly, not loudly, but with persistence. Over millions of years, it floats through spiral arms, past blazing suns, across cold, quiet stretches of interstellar space. It may be pulled momentarily into a molecular cloud, warmed by a passing flare, or nudged by gravity's invisible hand, but it never stops. Slowly, silently, it traces a path that spans the Milky Way, 100,000 light years from end to end. And though it weighs almost nothing, it carries everything: the memory of its origin, the elements forged in fire, the silence of its travel. Some of these grains, after crossing such impossible distances, eventually fall into forming stars, seed newborn worlds, or drift gently down onto planets like our own. They arrive without announcement, not meteors, not flashes, just quiet particles settling into oceans, into soil, into breath. One might land on your rooftop, another may already lie in your palm, invisible, forgotten. Yet it has seen more of the galaxy than any ship ever will. As you sleep tonight, know this: even the smallest things can travel the farthest, and even dust can cross the stars. Some grains are crystalline, others are carbon-rich, born in the breath of red giants. Not all dust is dull or gray. Some grains shimmer under magnification, tiny, ordered lattices of silicate crystal formed in the warm outflows of ancient suns. In the expanding atmospheres of red giants, where temperatures drop just enough, elements condense into solids, and from the chaos of gas, structure emerges. These crystals, olivine, pyroxene, spinel, are not visible to the naked eye, but they leave fingerprints in infrared light. Others are rich in carbon, forged in cooler, carbon-heavy stars, drifting like soot from a celestial fire. These grains are the seeds of complexity, capable of bonding, evolving, becoming the raw matter of life. In meteorites, scientists have found pre-solar grains, tiny bits of this crystalline and carbon-rich dust, older than the solar system, embedded in stone like forgotten jewels. Each grain tells a different story, of a star's chemistry, of its winds, of its final sigh. These are not just bits of rock. They are expressions of elemental order, of cosmic breathing. They are art born in fire, and though they now float in darkness, they once shimmered near suns. Tonight, as you rest, let the thought drift with you. Somewhere above, crystalline dust still glows softly in the heat of stellar breath, waiting to fall, waiting to begin again. We've caught dust in flight, carried it back in capsules, held the stars in our hands. Across the vastness of space, where even a grain is precious, we have sent machines to gather the smallest things. Spacecraft like NASA's Stardust and Japan's Hayabusa reached out into the darkness, opened delicate collectors, and waited. They captured particles mid-flight, dust shed from comets, grains born in the early solar system, fragments untouched for billions of years, encased in aerogel or scooped from asteroid surfaces. These motes were sealed in capsules and returned to Earth with a gentleness matched only by their value. When the capsules landed, scientists opened them slowly, reverently, as if unwrapping ancient light. Inside were flecks of cosmic memory, silicates, organics, rare metals, older than any fossil, any mountain, any sea. Under microscopes, these grains revealed complexity, structured crystals, layered armaments, traces of water, even amino acids. They told stories of heat and cold, of explosive births and icy drift. We had not just imagined the stars, we had touched them, held them, studied them in the palm. These samples continue to speak, offering clues about the formation of planets, the origin of life, the cycles of cosmic dust. And more missions are on their way, reaching farther, returning slower, gathering more. As you sleep tonight, know that somewhere, in a quiet lab on Earth, someone is gently studying a grain of dust that once drifted freely between worlds, a piece of the universe, caught and kept. It drifts, it orbits, it collides, always in motion, even in the coldest silence. There is no rest in the void, even in regions far from stars, where the light is dim and the temperatures fall to nearly nothing. Dust continues to move, carried by ancient momentum, nudged by distant gravity, or stirred by the faintest pressure of starlight. It flows. Around planets, it forms rings. Between stars, it traces filaments. In asteroid belts and comet trails, it clumps and scatters, shifting paths with each encounter. These particles, some as fine as smoke, others as coarse as sand, are part of a cosmic dance that never stops. When they collide, they either merge or shatter. When they pass near a planet or a moon, they're flung into new trajectories. In the solar wind, they spiral outward like golden pollen. In the galactic plane, they follow the sweep of rotation. Every motion shapes something larger, a nebula's edge, a halo's curve, a world's eventual birth. There is no fixed stillness in space, only drifting, circling, changing. Even the dust that seems forgotten is still part of the pattern. And even now, as you lie in quiet stillness, that dust above continues, orbiting stars, sketching light, brushing past invisible thresholds. Space is not silent because it is asleep. It is silent because its music never pauses. Even the brightest stars are softened. Their glow is filtered through dusty veils. No light travels through space untouched. Around stars, especially young or aging ones, dust gathers like fog around a lantern. It forms shells, halos, and ribbons, swirling remnants of birth or the slow exhale of decay. This dust doesn't block all light. It softens it, scatters it, turns brilliance into glow. Infrared telescopes often reveal these veils, shimmering gently where human eyes see only empty black. Some stars are completely cloaked, hidden within thick cocoons of dust where light has yet to break free. Others shine through thinner layers, their flicker altered just enough to warm a nebula or paint a glowing bow across the sky. The dust itself tells a story, whether the star is forming, shedding, spinning, or dimming. Even supernovae, those mighty bursts of brightness, cast off dust in their wake, wrapping the memory of their flash in drifting ash. And so, a star is never just a point of light. It is a presence wrapped in patience, a fire softened by memory. When you look up and see a star twinkling, that flicker is dust at work, bending, shaping, breathing between you and the light. Tonight, as you close your eyes beneath that star-strewn ceiling, know that the universe wears veils not to hide, but to soften. Even its brightest voices sing through dust. Not even black holes escape dust. It spirals near the edge, glowing briefly before vanishing. At the heart of galaxies, black holes lie in wait, silent, immense, invisible. But around them, a storm of motion unfurls. Dust, gas, and shattered fragments swirl inward, caught in gravity's spiral. Before they cross the event horizon, that point of no return, they accelerate, compress, and heat. The dust flares with friction, glowing in X-rays, in infrared, in whispers of light that mark their final moments. These glowing rings, called accretion disks, are cosmic whirlpools where time bends and energy peaks. The dust doesn't fall all at once. It loops again and again, drawn close but not yet lost. It reveals the shape of the invisible, tracing the shadow of the black hole, painting the edge where light begins to curve. Some of this dust is hurled outward by magnetic forces, forming colossal jets that stretch across space, carrying matter away at near light speed. Other grains simply vanish, pulled into silence. Yet even in that disappearance, they speak. They mark where the universe changes, where brightness ends. Black holes do not emit light, but the dust around them tells us where they are. It glows for a moment, then fades. As you drift towards sleep, imagine that final orbit, dust circling darkness, radiant for a breath, then gone. A quiet farewell at the edge of time. Comets leave long, gleaming trails. They shimmer with dust, sunlight, and time. Born in the coldest corners of the solar system, comets are icy time capsules, ancient wanderers filled with frozen gas, rock, and dust. As they approach the sun, warmth begins to stir them. Ices sublimate, turning directly to vapor, and with that vapor, dust is released. Tiny grains set free after billions of years socked in silence. The solar wind catches this dust, pushing it away from the comet's core, forming a luminous tail that stretches millions of kilometers behind. This dust tail reflects sunlight, glowing softly in the night sky, often visible long after the comet has passed. It curves gently, following the comet's path, while a second, straighter tail, made of ionized gas, points directly away from the sun. But it's the dust that carries texture, that leaves memory in its wake. Long after the comet disappears, its dust lingers in orbit, weaving trails through space that will be crossed again and again. These glowing tails are not just spectacle. They are threads of ancient material, unfurling like banners across the sky. They whisper of creation, of motion, of cycles that repeat with quiet precision. As you lie in stillness tonight, know that above you, dust from comets continues to drift, soft, bright, eternal, tracing the memory of a visitor now gone. Each orbit we pass through debris. Meteor showers are just dust, burning beautifully. Our planet, spinning on its silent path, crosses trails left behind by comets. These trails are made of dust, small, fragile particles shed long ago, still drifting along the comet's old orbit. When Earth passes through them, the particles collide with our atmosphere at high speed, igniting the sky in flashes of light. These are meteors, shooting stars, bright bursts caused by grains no larger than a pebble. Some are smaller than sand, yet they burn brilliantly, streaking through the sky in quiet arcs. These events, called meteor showers, return each year with rhythmic grace. The Perseids, the Leonids, the Geminids, each has its own timing, its own parent comet, its own dance of light. And though the moment is fleeting, the dust has traveled far, across time, across orbits, waiting for this soft reunion with Earth. Some meteors leave trails that linger. Some burst in colors, depending on their chemistry, but all are made of dust. Ancient, drifting, patient dust, transformed into flame for a heartbeat. As you rest beneath the stars, remember, the sky is not falling. It is welcoming, embracing the smallest visitors, letting them burn their memory into the night. And you, watching, are part of that moment, part of the orbit, the dust, the flame. What once was a star becomes dust. What once was dust becomes worlds. The universe is not wasteful. It turns endings into beginnings, scattering the ashes of stars to build new light. When a star reaches the final stage of its life, whether in the gentle breath of a red giant or the violent roar of a supernova, it releases its elements into the dark. These particles, forged in heat and gravity, drift outward as dust, carried on solar winds and shock waves. Some float freely for millions of years. Others are drawn into cold clouds where gravity begins again. There, the dust joins gas in great molecular clouds, forming new stars, new disks, new planets. That same dust can become the crust of a moon, the salt of an ocean, the iron in a heartbeat. And in time, those planets may host life. Life that breathes, burns, and eventually returns its matter to the stars. The cycle never stops. Cosmic dust is the quiet thread tying all stages of creation together. It is past, present, and future at once. When you hold a stone, you hold dust that once spun in space. When you look in the mirror, you see matter that once was light. The stars are not gone. They are changed. And space, vast as it is, remembers through every grain that falls, drifts, and rises again. Even in sleep, you are part of this cycle cradled by the dust of long-forgotten suns. In its layers lie stories of burning, cooling, and quiet collapse. Each grain of cosmic dust is a tiny archive, a preserved record of ancient events. Formed in the atmospheres of red giants or cast outward in the breath of exploding stars, dust carries the chemical fingerprints of its birth. Some grains have crystalline structures, cooled slowly in gentle stellar winds. Others are amorphous, flash frozen in the chaos of supernovae. Traces of isotopes inside them tell scientists exactly how hot their star burned, how fast it aged, and even how it died. When these grains are found on Earth, inside meteorites or gathered from space missions, they act like time travelers. By analyzing them, we uncover tales of distant stars we'll never see, of elements born long before our sun ignited. Dust grains reveal the temperature of stellar interiors, the pressure of collapse, the outflows of fading giants. In some, there are signs of multiple layers, hints that the star pulsed before it fell silent, exhaling in rhythm like breath. These tiny fragments have outlived the stars they came from, and now rest quietly on our planet, waiting to be read. As you fall into sleep, imagine them, grains no bigger than a whisper, yet filled with the voice of a star. Dust does not forget. It holds the stories of fire and silence, waiting gently in the dark. High in the sky, where green turns to violet, dust drifts, refracting the shimmer. Auroras are born of solar wind, of charged particles brushing against Earth's magnetic field, creating glowing curtains of green, red, and purple in the polar skies. But along the faintest edges, where color softens and shifts, something subtler plays a role. Tiny dust particles, carried high into the atmosphere by winds or lifted from distant volcanic plumes, linger at the threshold between light and dark. These grains catch the glow of the aurora, bending and diffusing it, adding softness, scattering color in unexpected directions. While the main body of the aurora dances from particle collisions, the edges shimmer with dust's quiet influence, hues deepened, lines blurred, motion traced in a finer hand. In rare moments, even meteoric dust in the upper atmosphere can interact with this glow, adding a second kind of light to the sky's theater. From below, we see it as magic, ribbons of violet rippling into indigo, fringes of pink whispering into blue. But behind that magic is physics, and behind that physics, dust, ever present, ever gentle, refracting color, where fire meets stillness. As you sleep beneath the sky's hush, know that even in the most fleeting beauty, dust is at work, not as debris, but as painter, prism, and quiet companion to the light. Crushed inside fallen rocks are ancient motes, older than our sun, preserved in silence. When meteorites fall to Earth, they bring with them more than rock. Hidden within their cores, embedded in their hardened minerals, are presolar grains, microscopic fragments of dust that formed long before our solar system existed. These grains are survivors, forged in the outer shells of ancient stars, cast off into space in stellar winds or explosive ends. They wandered the galaxy for eons before becoming trapped in the icy birthplaces of comets or the rubble of asteroids. When those bodies broke apart or were nudged from their orbits, pieces fell through our atmosphere, delivering their cargo to Earth. Scientists, using electron microscopes and atomic analysis, have found these grains, silicates, carbons, and tiny diamonds sealed inside meteorites. Their isotopic fingerprints reveal origins that stretch far beyond the sun's lifetime. They are the unaltered residue of stars now gone. Some contain elements and arrangements not seen in any earthly material. Others bear the scars of cosmic rays and radiation from across the ages. To hold one is to touch time, not as a concept, but as a particle. And though silent, though unimaginably small, they tell us of stars that once breathed and now drift as memory. As you lie still tonight, remember that the universe has sent pieces of itself here, not loudly, not urgently, but with patience, and in stone, in dust, in silence, we have found them. Not all dust is empty. Some carries carbon, hints of life, whispers of chemistry. Drifting through space are grains that hold more than rock or ice. Within their delicate structure, nestled among silicates and carbon chains, lie complex organic molecules, the seeds of biology, formed in the cold, dark wombs of molecular clouds. These are not living things, but their ingredients, amino acids, hydrocarbons, and other building blocks that could, given time and the right conditions, lead to life. Some form in the envelopes of aging stars, where cool carbon-rich winds condense material into chains of complexity. Others emerge deep in interstellar clouds, sparked by ultraviolet light or gentle collisions that rearrange atoms into something richer. When comets deliver this dust to planetary surfaces, as they have for billions of years, they bring with them this ancient chemistry, spreading potential across galaxies. Missions like Rosetta have tasted these molecules in the breath of comets. Meteorites, too, have revealed organic compounds locked in stone, untouched since the early solar system. And so, dust is not just debris. It is possibility. Each grain that drifts past a star or falls onto a young planet may carry with it the silent beginning of a story. Not all will bloom, but some might. As you sleep tonight, imagine that quiet cargo, drifting through starlight, waiting, patient, full of unspoken promise, dust that may, someday, stir into breath. It endures heat, vacuum, radiation, fragile yet eternal. In the emptiness of space, where temperatures swing from freezing blackness to searing light, where radiation flows unchecked and gravity whispers from distant stars, dust persists. These tiny grains, often no larger than a virus, outlast storms, shocks, and silence. Some are blasted by supernovae and flung into interstellar space, yet they cool and drift onward. Others pass near stars, bathed in ultraviolet light, their outer layers scorched, but their cores remain. Dust grains endure the vacuum with quiet strength, their molecules tightly bound, their paths unbroken. Even in the brutal radiation belts around planets or the accretion disks of newborn stars, dust weaves through, danger with resilience. It's found in the tails of comets approaching the sun, in the winds of red giants, in the boundary between solar systems and the dark beyond. Some grains orbit for billions of years, unaltered, untouched, waiting to join something larger. They are quiet survivors, reminders that even the smallest, most delicate things can endure, not because they fight, but because they yield, drift, and persist. As you lie in stillness, remember, the stars burn and collapse, planets form and vanish, but dust remains. In every corner of the cosmos, something endures, and it is small, and it is soft, and it is strong. As ice sublimates, dust escapes, reflecting sunlight in a luminous halo. Comets are often called dirty snowballs, frozen archives of the early solar system, drifting slowly through deep space. But when they approach the sun, they begin to change. The heat does not melt the ice, it sublimates it, turning it directly into gas. In this release, the dust embedded within the ice is freed. These particles, quiet for eons, are now pushed outward by solar radiation, forming the glowing coma, the hazy shell that surrounds a comet's nucleus. As the gas expands and escapes, sunlight reflects off the dust grains, illuminating the comet with a diffuse and ghostly light. It is not fire, not self-made brightness, but reflected memory, sunlight caught in motion. The tail, often stretching millions of kilometers behind the comet, is shaped by this dust, fanning outward in slow arcs and curves. Each grain in that tail is a witness, a remnant from the time when planets were forming and light was first finding its way through the solar wind. We see comets shine not because of what they are, but because of what they release, and what they release is dust, luminous, drifting, patient. Tonight, if you dream of light in motion, imagine a comet shedding its skin in slow brilliance, dust rising like breath, and sunlight wrapping it in one last glow before it vanishes into dark. Even here, on Earth, you can find cosmic memory, buried in polar silence. In the stillness of Antarctica, beneath layers of snow laid down year after year, lies something older than ice. Trapped within the frozen silence are specks of dust that did not form on Earth, particles that fell from space, untouched by time, and nestled quietly into the accumulating frost. These grains, some from passing comets, others from distant stars, rain gently onto the polar surface over thousands, even millions of years. Preserved by cold and isolation, they remain unweathered, their structure intact, their stories unblurred. Scientists trek to these frozen deserts with careful hands and precise instruments, melting snow by the milligram to filter out these cosmic visitors. Under microscopes, the dust reveals its shape, porous, crystalline, carbon-rich, different from anything made by Earth's processes. Isotopic signatures whisper of red giants, of supernovae, of interstellar drift. These motes may have traveled for light years, carried by gravity and wind, only to settle at last in stillness. And so, in the heart of Earth's coldest places, we find pieces of the sky, a quiet archive written in frost. As you rest tonight, know this: the past is not lost. It drifts down slowly, settles into silence, and waits, even here, to be discovered. Even here, on Earth, you can find cosmic memory, buried in polar silence, beneath Antarctica's windswept surface, where the snow never melts and the world lies still. Something older than ice rests patiently. Layer by layer, snowfall has preserved history, not only of Earth's climate, but of the cosmos. Cosmic dust, drifting gently through the atmosphere, falls like ash onto the frozen plains. These grains, smaller than sand, are carried from the stars. Some come from distant supernovae, others from ancient comets that pass too close to the sun. Trapped in the accumulating snow, they remain untouched, protected from erosion, time, and light. Deep ice cores, drilled and examined with exquisite care, reveal these tiny fragments. Scientists melt the ice, drop by drop, filtering the water to find them. What they uncover are particles unaltered for millions of years, older than the solar system, still carrying isotopes from long-dead stars. In their silence, they speak of stellar winds, of nebulae, of galactic drift. Antarctica, in its frozen hush, has become an archive not just of Earth's past, but of cosmic time. These grains are the echo of explosions, the breath of red giants, the scattered inheritance of starfire. As you lie in stillness tonight, imagine the sky leaving behind its secrets in snow, a quiet snowfall of memory, caught in the cold, waiting beneath your feet. Invisible rivers of dust stream between the planets, drawn by gravity, stirred by light. The space between the planets is not empty. Though it seems dark and silent, the solar system is laced with threads of dust, ancient, drifting, constantly in motion. These particles come from many sources: comet tails shedding their fragile cargo, asteroid collisions flinging fragments into the void, and even interstellar grains that pass quietly through our neighborhood. Once freed, the dust enters orbit, forming vast, thin clouds that encircle the sun. Some spiral inward under the gentle tug of sunlight and solar wind, while others are pulled outward by gravitational currents or scattered by planetary magnetism. Together, they form the zodiacal cloud, a great invisible ocean of light-scattering matter. Occasionally, we glimpse its glow in the zodiacal light before dawn or after dusk, a pale shimmer revealing the dust's quiet presence, but most of the time it is unseen, a soft network of movement, a slow current carrying history across the solar system. Earth, as it travels, plows through these streams. Some dust settles in our atmosphere, some falls as shooting stars, some simply flows around us, moving ever onward. As you sleep tonight, the solar system is alive with motion. Rivers of dust gliding past the planets, drawn by forces older than memory, stirred by light, never at rest. Sunlight has pressure, though it feels like nothing. It gently nudges dust through space, grain by grain. Each beam of light carries energy, not just warmth, not just illumination, but motion. Photons, the smallest packets of light, have no mass, yet they exert pressure. When they strike a dust grain adrift in space, they give it a tiny push. Not enough to notice at once, but over time, that push changes everything. This gentle force, called radiation pressure, is one of the quiet engines of the cosmos. It moves dust away from stars, shaping comet tails, sweeping paths through debris disks, and guiding particles into new orbits. Around our sun, it causes fine grains to spiral outward, their motion dictated not by gravity alone, but by the soft insistence of light. In distant star systems, radiation pressure sculpts the shape of disks where planets form, clearing gaps and forming arcs of dust that curve like frozen waves. And though the effect is gentle, it never stops, a constant, invisible wind blowing across the cosmos. Even light, it seems, has touch. Even brightness, silent as it is, can move the smallest things. Tonight, as your eyes close, imagine the sky not as still, but as flowing, dust drifting slowly on sunbeams, gliding across space, carried by the quiet pressure of starlight. Surrounding our galaxy is a halo of dust. It glows faintly, reflecting the light of billions. Beyond the spiral arms, beyond the bright plane of stars, the Milky Way is wrapped in a soft envelope of dust. This halo is not dense or bright, but it is real, a vast, diffuse cloud of fine grains stretching hundreds of thousands of light years into space, formed from the outflows of ancient stars, from the remnants of supernovae, from the breath of galaxies long past. This dust floats in the halo alongside ionized gas and dark matter. It is faint, but it glows, not with its own light, but with the borrowed radiance of the galaxy within. Starlight scatters gently off these grains, creating a pale shimmer that is only visible with sensitive instruments. This glow tells us about the size, shape, and past of our galaxy. It reveals how dust moves, where it collects, and how it cycles between stars and space. Some of the halo's dust may have been ejected by exploding stars. Some may have arrived from smaller galaxies drawn in by gravity's long pull, and still it drifts, orbiting silently, forming a veil around everything we see. The Milky Way is not only stars and dark matter, it is also dust, quiet, luminous, enduring. As you rest tonight, imagine the galaxy not just turning, but glowing at the edges, wrapped in a hush of dust, whispering light into the black. It doesn't burn or glow, only reflects, like a mirror drifting alone in darkness. Not all dust is heated or charged. Some grains drift too far from stars to warm, too quiet to radiate, too cold to glow. Yet even in their silence, they shine, not by producing their own light, but by catching the light of others. These particles act like floating mirrors, scattering starlight in delicate patterns that reveal their shape and presence. In nebulae such as the Pleiades, the dust does exactly this, catching the blue light of nearby stars and reflecting it outward in a soft, shimmering haze. We see it not because it burns, but because it remembers the direction of the light that touched it. This reflected glow is often subtle, fragile, easily lost in the brilliance of nearby stars, but it tells us where dust drifts, how it moves, what it's made of. Reflection, nebulae, born of these silent mirrors, become the outlines of unseen clouds, glowing gently in borrowed light. These grains never call attention to themselves. They offer no heat, no flame, but they let the light pass through them, bounce off them, echo from them. They become a presence in the dark, a memory of brightness that traveled far. As you fall asleep tonight, imagine that, tiny mirrors floating in silence, reflecting light across light years, never burning, only shimmering softly in the dark. Though it hides from our eyes, it sings in other wavelengths. Telescopes tuned to radio can hear it hum. Invisible light, much of the universe seems dark. Dust clouds obscure starlight, wrap young stars in shadow, and blur the outlines of galaxies. But to a radio telescope, that darkness glows. Dust emits faint signals in the microwave and radio parts of the spectrum, not as images, but as hums, pulses, and warmth. Some of these signals come from spinning dust grains, energized by collisions or ultraviolet light, whirling thousands of times per second. Others come from molecular fingerprints, radio waves emitted by the specific structures of dust mixed with gas. By listening rather than looking, astronomers can map the invisible, the cold interiors of star-forming regions, the veils surrounding dying suns, the halos of galaxies hidden beneath layers of shadow. These instruments reveal the quiet architecture of space, where dust forms lanes, filaments, cocoons, from observatories on mountaintops or far-off satellites drifting above the atmosphere. We hear the sky's softest conversations, carried on waves longer than any color. It is a reminder that not all truth is visible. Some things must be heard, some things hum instead of shine, and even the most silent dust has a signal waiting patiently in the dark. As you rest, the universe continues speaking, not loudly, but always, and dust, drifting endlessly, hums softly in return. In nebulae, dust keeps warmth in. It cocoons young stars, shielding them as they form. Within the cold, dark cradles of the universe where stars are born, dust is more than decoration. It is insulation. These tiny grains, made of carbon, silicates, and frozen gases, gather in dense clouds and act like a cosmic quilt. When gravity begins to collapse parts of these clouds into protostars, the surrounding dust slows the escape of heat, allowing the core to warm steadily. Without this protective veil, the fragile balance needed for star birth would falter. Dust absorbs radiation from the infant star, re-radiating it gently in infrared wavelengths. It softens the harshness of creation, muffling the energetic cries of fusion's first sparks. Even as jets of matter burst from the poles of these young suns, dust clings close, sculpting and shaping the flow of energy. It shields molecules from dissociation, preserves chemical complexity, and creates the kind of calm needed for planets to eventually form. Over time, as the star grows and its radiation increases, the dust thins and dissipates, revealing the newborn light. But in the earliest moments, when the star is still becoming, dust is its guardian. Tonight, as you find rest beneath your own sun's legacy, imagine far-off stars still wrapped in warmth, hidden inside glowing clouds, not alone, but cradled in dust's quiet embrace. Beyond the planets lies a dusty ring, cold, dim, but full of potential. Encircling our solar system is a vast, faint structure known as the Kuiper Belt, a region beyond Neptune filled with icy bodies, silent rocks, and drifting dust. But farther still, and even between the familiar orbits, lies something softer, a disk of dust. These grains were left behind by the collisions of ancient asteroids, the slow erosion of comets, and the distant remnants of solar system formation. Though nearly invisible to the naked eye, this dust forms a vast flat cloud that glows faintly in infrared. It is part of what gives rise to the zodiacal light, and part of what scientists study when tracing the early architecture of planetary birth. Some of this dust spirals slowly inward, drawn toward the sun. Some remains in stable orbits, tracing delicate rings like faint echoes of Saturn's grand bands. In other solar systems, such disks are often the first signs of planets, clues to formation still underway. Our own disk is quieter now, thinner but still present. It reminds us that creation never truly ends. Dust remains, waiting. It may someday gather again, stirred by passing stars or distant resonances, forming moons, planets, or something we've never seen. As you sleep tonight, the solar system turns through its own halo of memory, dust circling still, cold and patient in the space beyond the light. Worlds are carved from dust, their orbits shaped by invisible hands drifting in the dark. In the early days of a solar system, before planets bloom and moons emerge, there is only dust drifting in wide, warm rings around a newborn star. But this dust is not aimless. It moves with purpose, guided by gravity, stirred by light, sculpted by chance and time. Small grains collide and cling. Clumps form, grow, and gather. Some are drawn toward the center, others pushed outward by radiation pressure or resonances with forming planets. Gaps appear in the dust where young worlds begin to clear their paths, carving lanes and spirals into the cloud. Dust piles up along the edges of orbits, shaped by gravitational dances we cannot see. It tells a story before the planets can speak. Even long after the major bodies are formed, dust continues to influence the system, tracing unseen forces, smoothing or disturbing orbits, whispering to the architecture of space. And in every ring, every arc, every shadowed gap, we glimpse the hands that built the system, not sudden, not loud, but patient and precise. As you drift into sleep tonight, know that the planets, including your own, were born in dust's quiet labor. The paths they follow were first drawn by particles no larger than whispers, drifting in starlight. Other suns wear halos too. We see them, delicate arcs of dust shining from far away. Across the galaxy, far beyond the reach of our own solar wind, stars shine with more than light. Surrounding some are luminous rings, belts of dust glowing faintly in infrared, betraying the presence of unseen worlds and distant architectures. These dusty halos, often discovered through careful observation by space telescopes, mark the quiet activity of planet-making far from home. Some stars show single, narrow rings. Others reveal complex, multi-layered disks, bands within bands, twisted into subtle spirals or warped into shimmering arcs by the gravity of nearby exoplanets. These structures are often the only signs we have of planets still hidden in glare. We read the dust like a map. This gap may mark a planet's orbit. That ridge may hint at a moon. Those flares might be echoes of collision. These halos are not permanent. They are dynamic, changing as material clumps, disperses and reforms. But for now, they shine softly, tracing the invisible with their gentle light. They remind us that our solar system is not alone in its beauty, not the only place where dust becomes design. Tonight, as your thoughts drift outward, imagine distant suns glowing in the dark, each wrapped in arcs of light and dust, each telling a quiet story, a formation still unfolding. Its air is tinted with rust. The pink skies of Mars come from iron-rich dust. The sky on Mars is not blue, but soft and strange, a dusty rose at midday, deep amber at dusk. This color doesn't come from clouds or ozone, but from the fine particles of iron-rich dust suspended in the planet's thin atmosphere. These tiny grains, lifted by the wind from Mars's dry surface, reflect and scatter sunlight differently than the molecules in Earth's air. The result is a palette painted with rust, warm, muted, and hauntingly still. During dust storms, which can stretch across continents or even envelop the entire planet, the skies darken, dimming the sun to a pale disk. But even in calmer times, this dust lingers, floating endlessly, never quite settling. It shapes not only the color of the sky, but the feel of the light. Shadows are softer, horizons are blurred, and sunsets unfold in unexpected hues. Cool blue near the sun, fading into apricot and blood orange around the edges. To stand on Mars would be to stand in a world tinted by iron, where even the air remembers stone. And though the planet seems silent now, the dust still moves, still climbs into the sky, still paints with the memory of ancient volcanoes and lost oceans. As you fall asleep, imagine breathing under that copper sky, a world shaped not by water or wind, but by a fine, eternal dust. On moons without weather, dust settles endlessly, a snowfall that never melts. Far from the warmth of the sun, where icy moons drift in darkness, the airless skies never stir. There is no wind, no rain, no flowing water to change the land, yet still change comes, grain by grain. Cosmic dust, flung across space by comets, asteroids, and ancient collisions, falls gently onto these moons. Without atmospheres to burn them away, the tiniest particles land intact, layering the surface like ash. Over time, this dust builds, forming blankets over ridges, collecting in craters, softening the jagged edges of rocks, untouched for billions of years. On moons like Iapetus or Callisto, the dust is clearly visible, streaking one side darker than the other, painting subtle lines that speak of long, slow accumulation. Even the most remote moons of Saturn or Uranus wear coats of this quiet snowfall, turning and turning beneath the steady drizzle of stardust. It falls in silence. It falls without end. Some of it glows faintly in the light of distant suns. Some lies in permanent shadow, undisturbed since it landed. These moons, frozen and silent, are not truly still. They are being written upon, softly, continuously, by the dust of the solar system. As you sleep, imagine that snowfall, dry, weightless, eternal. A gentle rain of cosmic memory drifting down onto lonely worlds. Dust does not drift without purpose. Gravity braids it into spirals, rings, and veils. In the quiet reaches of space, dust is not left to wander aimlessly. Gravity, soft, persistent, invisible, pulls at every grain, gathering them into forms that speak of deeper motion. Around stars, dust arranges itself into elegant disks, flattening and swirling, shaped by orbital resonance and planetary pull. Gaps appear where young planets stir the flow, arcs form where unseen companions pass near. Between galaxies, dust threads into filaments that stretch like rivers of shadow across the void. In spiral galaxies, gravity draws dust into graceful arms, winding slowly around luminous cores. Even in chaotic clouds of gas, dust begins to clump, pulled by denser regions, forming the skeletons of stars not yet born. What seems like drifting is, in truth, a slow choreography. Gravity as the unseen hand, dust as the thread. It draws the cosmos into structure, into beauty, into memory. These shapes, though vast, begin with the smallest of things, with specks no larger than smoke, and yet those specks obey the same laws that guide planets and stars. As you rest, imagine gravity not as force, but as whisper, calling dust together, shaping light and shadow into spirals that turn forever in silence. Even after its star is gone, dust remains, drifting through the silence across lifetimes. When a star dies, whether in quiet collapse or brilliant explosion, it leaves more than emptiness. The light may fade, the core may vanish, but the dust it once cast out drifts on. These particles, forged in the heat of nuclear fusion and released into the void, outlive their parent stars by billions of years. They do not rush, they float. Across light years, they travel through the interstellar medium, unbound, unclaimed, undisturbed. Some pass through gas clouds, some settle into new systems, others simply move onward, slipping silently between the arms of galaxies. Even after their star's light no longer reaches us, its dust does, a soft echo, still carrying the chemistry of origin. Some grains may one day seed new stars, others may fall into distant worlds, and many will simply drift forever, their paths etched into space by nothing more than memory. They are the quiet ghosts of stars moving without sound, without destination, but never truly lost. Tonight, as you breathe beneath your own sun, know that in the darkness beyond, dust still wanders, remnants of forgotten suns, particles that have crossed more time than we can measure, still drifting, still present, still waiting. Each shooting star is a farewell, dust meeting air and glowing as it fades. Every day, Earth is showered with cosmic dust, thousands of tons of it, invisible to most eyes. Much of it falls gently, settling into oceans, forests, rooftops, but some enters the atmosphere fast enough to burn. These are the meteors you see at night, brief streaks of light flaring across the sky. They are not stars falling, but ancient grains, no bigger than a grain of rice, igniting from friction as they rush through the air. The glow they produce is short, but brilliant, a moment of heat, of farewell. They are remnants from comets, from shattered asteroids, from far beyond our skies. Some have wandered for millions of years, only to vanish in a breath of fire above us. In meteor showers, we see them arrive in waves, the legacy of dusty trails Earth passes through again and again. But even on quiet nights, a few still fall, unnoticed, a whisper of light in the corner of the sky, and though they burn and fade, they leave something behind, tiny particles that drift down to the surface, adding to the story of the planet grain by grain. Tonight, as you rest, remember that even now, the sky is writing, with light, with dust, with silent departures, glowing for a moment before returning to the dark. Some starlight arrives tinged in red, not because the star is red, but because dust has filtered its blue away. As starlight travels through space, it passes through clouds of interstellar dust, tiny particles scattered between stars, drifting in slow, silent motion. These grains do not block light entirely. Instead, they bend it, scatter it, and shift its color. Blue light, with its shorter wavelength, is scattered more easily, cast away from our line of sight. What remains is the redder, longer wavelengths, warmer, softer, dimmer. This is why some stars appear rusty or muted, not because of their age or heat, but because dust has veiled their truest color. It is a quiet illusion, not erasure, but transformation. Astronomers call this interstellar reddening, and they map it to understand the dust between us and the stars. Even galaxies, when viewed through dusty regions, appear faded, their blues swallowed by ancient haze. And yet, the stars still shine. Their light still reaches us, changed but not lost. Dust, in this way, becomes both filter and storyteller. It doesn't silence the stars, it softens them. It shows us the distance, the presence, the long journey that light has taken. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine the light above not as constant, but shaped by dust, by time, by the invisible breath of space, and in that shaping, beauty. By tracing dust, we learn the shape of the unseen. It outlines what light alone cannot. In the vast darkness of space, dust is often the only clue to something more. It drifts through galaxies, clings to the edges of stars, gathers in clouds where light struggles to pass, and in doing so, it becomes a map. By following the faint glow of dust in infrared or the subtle polarization of scattered starlight, astronomers can trace structures too faint or too distant to see directly. Dust reveals the arms of spiral galaxies, the filaments of molecular clouds, the halos that stretch far beyond the visible light. It outlines the pathways where gravity pulls and where stars are born. It shows us the footprints of collisions, of slow collapses, of galactic wind. In places where light is absorbed, dust draws a shadow. In places where nothing glows, dust still drifts, shaping the silence. Even the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, is studied more clearly when we subtract the whisper of foreground dust. Without it, our view is blurred. With it, we can begin to understand. Dust doesn't just obscure, it sketches. It outlines the unseen, like frost revealing the breath on glass. As you drift into sleep tonight, remember that even the finest particles can illuminate the largest mysteries, and sometimes the clearest map is drawn in shadow. On its surface, ice clings, tiny crystals that carry water across the void. In the coldest corners of space, where light barely touches and temperatures fall near absolute zero, dust grains collect more than starlight. They gather water. Molecule by molecule, water vapor condenses onto the surface of these tiny particles, forming thin coatings of ice. This ice is not pooled or liquid, but crystalline and delicate, a frost that clings to rock, carbon, or silicate, carried within comets, nestled in dark clouds drifting through interstellar space. This frozen dust becomes a vessel. It transports water from one region of the galaxy to another, across light years, between systems, toward new worlds. Scientists believe much of Earth's water may have arrived this way, delivered grain by grain on the surfaces of cosmic dust within ancient meteorites and comets. In every icy core, there's history. In every dusty speck, there's the possibility of rain. Even in deep space, where no atmosphere can hold a cloud, water rides on dust like memory. Telescopes tuned to far infrared and sub-millimeter wavelengths detect its subtle signature, revealing frosted halos around stars and icy lanes in the densest clouds. As you rest tonight, imagine it, dust drifting through space, carrying not just rock and shadow, but the seeds of oceans, frozen and silent, waiting to fall. Not just stone, but complex chemistry, amino hints, locked inside ancient grains. Among the cold, drifting particles that populate the vastness of space, some carry more than minerals. They carry the whispers of life's beginning. These grains, forged in stellar winds and gathered in interstellar clouds, often develop complex organic coatings, the result of simple molecules reacting in ultraviolet light. On their surfaces, carbon chains grow. Hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen bind into forms that resemble the very building blocks of biology. Scientists have found amino acids in meteorites, remnants of ancient dust held together in stone. and even more tantalizing hints in the icy tails of comets. These are not life, but they are the vocabulary of it, the ingredients, the alphabet. When these grains fall onto young planets, they seed the surface with possibility. In warm pools or icy cracks, these molecules may have stirred and linked, beginning the long, quiet process that leads to cells, to breath, to thought. Some dust still carries these clues, locked in ice, drifting between stars, waiting for a place to land. We search for them with spacecraft, with microscopes, with hope. And with each discovery, we see that the path to life is not isolated. It is scattered, shared, embedded in the dust. Tonight, as you sleep, imagine a grain no larger than a whisper, holding within it the first hint of life, a drift, ancient and full of potential. Before planets, before pebbles, there was dust. It is the first step toward solidity. In the warm disks that swirl around newborn stars, there are no continents, no moons, no mountains, only dust, fine, weightless, suspended like breath in sunlight. But this dust is the seed of all that follows. As it drifts and spins, it begins to touch. Electric charges make grains stick. Collisions cause them to clump. From dust, pebbles form. From pebbles, boulders. From boulders, the cores of planets take shape. This process, called accretion, unfolds slowly, patiently, a ballet of gravity and chance played out over millions of years. Every rocky surface, every ring of Saturn, every asteroid in the sky began as dust caught in motion. Even now, this process continues in distant systems where telescopes capture halos of dust around far-off suns. Some disks show gaps carved by forming planets, others glow faintly, rich with potential. And though the solid worlds that emerge may feel permanent, their origin remains scattered, delicate, and quiet. Before solidity, there's drift. Before land, there is haze. As you drift tonight into your own quiet rest, remember, everything that is firm, grounded, and vast began not with noise or form, but with dust, floating, waiting, becoming. On your skin, there may rest a grain that saw other suns, traveled lifetimes to arrive here. Every day, Earth is brushed by cosmic dust, invisible to most, but always present. It settles quietly onto rooftops, drifts into rivers, clings to leaves, and yes, sometimes lands softly on your skin. These grains are not all born of this world. Some began in distant star systems, ejected by stellar winds, or carried outward in the final breaths of dying suns. Others traveled from galaxies far beyond, adrift for millions of years through interstellar dark. Guided only by momentum and silence, they passed through the vast emptiness, crossed magnetic fields, slipped between planets, and fell into Earth's atmosphere like a sigh. Most burned and flared into brief meteors, but a few, the smallest, the most patient, made it through. These grains are older than the mountains, older than the moon. They've seen stars rise and fade, and now they rest here unnoticed until washed by rain or carried by breeze. You may never see them, but you are touched by them, by the journey, by the history, by the quiet persistence of matter from beyond. As you sleep tonight, let that thought rest with you, that even now, the dust of other suns may lie upon your shoulder, a silent visitor from another sky. When stars die gently, they leave behind layers, expanding shells of dust, still warm with memory. Not all stars end in fire. Some, like our sun, will someday die slowly, swelling into red giants, exhaling their outer layers in a series of soft releases. Each breath casts off gas and dust into space, forming concentric shells that drift outward over thousands of years. These shells, rich with carbon, silicates, and heavier elements, glow faintly in infrared, warmed by the fading heat of the star they once surrounded. The layers form beautiful structures, glowing rings, elliptical halos, veils of shimmer, each one a chapter of the star's farewell. In time, the core left behind becomes a white dwarf, hot, silent, dim. But the dust remains, expanding, cooling, blending with the interstellar medium. These shells are not graves, but gifts. Their material becomes part of the galaxy again, fueling new stars, seeding future worlds. Even in death, a star continues to shape the cosmos, not with sound or flame, but with dust, patient, drifting, luminous. Telescopes capture these shells as soft, glowing echoes, circular memories unfolding across space. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine one of those stars, long gone, but still surrounded by its own light, still glowing in layers, still whispering its story in dust. Some of the dust we see is ancient light, carried through expanding space from when galaxies were young. Across the vast sweep of time, dust has been drifting. From the earliest stars, from the first galaxies, from moments not just distant in space, but distant in age. This ancient dust absorbed light from young, forming galaxies, then re-emitted it in longer wavelengths. As it cooled, creating a glow we can still detect today. Telescopes tuned to infrared and microwave frequencies catch this fossil light, the whisper of warmth from a universe still taking shape. These signals come from dust that drifted when the cosmos was just a fraction of its current age. Some of it formed in the outflows of the very first stars, or in the early supernovae that seeded space with heavy elements. As the universe expanded, so too did this glow, stretched, softened, aged into the background of the cosmos. Now, from our small blue world, we map that light to trace the shape of everything, the structure of early galaxies, the flow of matter, the patterns etched into the universe by gravity and time. What we see is not the dust itself, but its echo, a warmth billions of years old, arriving just now. As you sleep tonight, remember, you live in a moment where the past is still arriving. The oldest dust still speaks, glowing across space, carrying the memory of when everything first began. Carried outward by the sun's breath, some grains shimmer with charge, tiny sparks in a solar tide. The solar wind, a constant stream of charged particles from the sun, is not just heat and force. It is a carrier, a sculptor, a painter of space. Along with it, fine grains of dust drift outward from the inner solar system, pushed gently by light and plasma. But these grains don't travel unchanged. As they move through the solar wind, they become electrified, struck by particles, bathed in radiation, wrapped in fields. Electrons build on their surfaces, making them shimmer with charge. Some grains spin faster, some align with magnetic currents, some are deflected entirely from their path. In this way, even the smallest dust is connected to the sun's vast breath. We've detected these charged grains with spacecraft, felt their gentle touch on instruments, seen their quiet signals flicker as they pass. In the heliosphere, the bubble carved by the solar wind, dust is not still. It dances, it pulses, it sings in tiny sparks, wrapped in fields that stretch far beyond Pluto. These particles are part of a solar tide, ever flowing, ever charged, ever moving outward into interstellar space. And as you rest beneath the sky tonight, know that even now, the sun's breath carries dust outward, radiant, humming, glowing softly as it drifts into the dark. They're not cold in the same way. Each dust cloud has a warmth, a glow, a quiet signature. In the silence between stars, dust gathers in clouds, not uniform, not identical, but varied, each with its own rhythm and warmth. Some are nearly frozen, their temperatures just a few degrees above absolute zero, glowing faintly in the farthest reaches of infrared light. Others lie closer to heat, warmed by nearby stars, by collapsing cores, or by ancient starlight that still echoes across space. These clouds do not burn, they do not shine as stars do, but they glow, and each glow reveals something about what they are and where they are. Astronomers study these temperatures, using them like fingerprints. A warmer cloud may cradle a newborn star, its dust lit from within. A colder one might be a cradle yet to stir, waiting in darkness, holding potential in stillness. The glow is not for eyes, it is for instruments tuned to wavelengths that stretch beyond human sight. Through them, we see the shape of heat, the contours of quiet motion, the texture of the cosmos unfolding. Dust does not just mark a place in space, it tells the temperature of becoming. As you lie in your own warmth tonight, remember, every cloud above has its own quiet pulse, a thermal whisper in the dark, glowing with its own age, its own story, its own slow light. Exploding stars make glass, microscopic shards that cool in the emptiness and drift forever. In the final, violent breath of a dying star, temperatures rise beyond imagination, atoms fuse, structures break, and in that brief chaos, something unexpected form: glass. Tiny droplets of silicate melt, flung outward by the force of a supernova, then cooled instantly by the vast cold of space. These droplets become spheres, filaments, fragments, glass at a scale beyond vision, with no atmosphere to erode them, and no water to wear them down. These shards persist. They drift through the galaxy as messengers of ancient explosions, carrying the memory of a star's final moment. Scientists have found them in meteorites, hidden in the rocky remains of things that fell to Earth. Their surfaces tell stories of heat and collapse, of temperatures that can melt the very core of matter. Some are crystalline, ordered like frozen flame. Others are chaotic, twisted by the speed of their creation. Yet all of them are beautiful, invisible sculptures, formed not by hands but by the sky in motion. These grains of cosmic glass now drift quietly between stars, circling suns, or falling slowly toward new worlds. As you fall asleep, imagine that somewhere in the night above, a piece of ancient fire cooled to silence, it gliding through space, a shard of glass, born in starlight, still traveling, still shining. When dust collides, it clumps. When it clumps, it grows. When it grows, it dreams of becoming worlds. In the beginning, there is only dust, drifting, suspended, circling newborn stars in warm, glowing halos. These grains are small, light, and countless, but they are not still. Moved by turbulence, touched by charge, stirred by light, they begin to find one another. Some stick through static, through warmth, through gentle touch. With each encounter they grow, specks into pebbles, pebbles into stones. The process is slow, but it does not stop. Gravity joins the conversation, pulling clumps inward, urging them to merge. Collisions become common, some soft, some shattering, but enough that fragments rejoin and try again. Over time, the cloud thins, but the bodies within it swell. Protoplanets carve paths, sweeping up what floats nearby, while others are flung outward or pulled into spiral dances. It is chaos, but also creation. Every solid planet began with a collision of dust. Every moon was once a drifting grain. And even now, far beyond our view, new systems are forming from this same quiet beginning. As you sleep tonight, picture a dusty disk somewhere light years away, silent, glowing, colliding, and within it, the faint beginnings of a future world. Even at twilight, the haze you see isn't all from Earth. Some is dust, scattered from above. When the sun sinks low and the sky glows with soft pastels, gold fading to lavender, blue dissolving into rose, what you're seeing isn't just atmosphere. Some of that gentle haze is cosmic in origin. Tiny grains of dust from space drift down through our skies each day. Some burn as meteors, others survive the descent, suspended high above in the mesosphere, scattering light in subtle, unexpected ways. During twilight, especially just after sunset or before dawn, the angle of sunlight stretches long across the sky. It catches not only molecules of air, but also these high-altitude visitors, grains left by comets, by asteroids, by the drifting breath of the solar system. This cosmic dust bends light in delicate directions, softening edges, adding a faint shimmer to the fading day. On some nights, it helps paint noctilucent clouds, icy tendrils glowing silver blue above the poles. We rarely notice it, but it's there, a reminder that Earth's sky is not sealed, that space still touches us, gently, daily. As you fall asleep, think of twilight not as an ending, but as a meeting between sunlight, atmosphere, and the dust of distant stars, a quiet handshake between Earth and everything beyond. Around distant stars, dusty rings ripple strangely. Sometimes that ripple means a planet is passing. In the soft halos that encircle newborn stars, dust does more than drift. It dances, guided by gravity, shaped by unseen forces. Astronomers observing these dusty disks sometimes notice gaps, spirals, or asymmetries, disturbances in the pattern. These are not random. Often, they hint at something hidden. A planet, still forming, may be clearing a path through the dust. Its gravity gathers material into arcs, pushes grains into clumps, and stirs ripples like a pebble dropped in a pond. Though we may not yet see the planet directly, its presence is written in the dust, in rings that wobble, in edges that glow a little brighter, in shadows that drift across the light. These clues allow scientists to infer the orbits and masses of distant worlds, reading the invisible through what the dust reveals. Some of these planets may still be gathering dust themselves, wrapped in halos of their own. Others may be finished, shepherding debris like silent architects. These dusty disks are not just leftovers. They are records in motion of planetary creation. As you fall asleep tonight, imagine a ring of light around a far-off star, and in it a ripple, a whisper in dust, marking where a new world begins. Not all dust drifts. Some of it swirls in great spirals, locked in a cosmic dance. In the spinning disks of gas and dust around young stars, not everything flows evenly. Sometimes regions of pressure arise, pockets of stillness in a sea of motion, and into these, dust gathers. These are dust vortices, swirling eddies where particles are trapped, spiraling inward like leaves in a whirlpool. They can last for thousands of years, clumping grains into dense spirals, concentrating matter where planets may one day begin. From afar, telescopes have spotted these structures in bright arcs, crescents, and horseshoe shapes glowing in radio waves. They are not caused by light, but by movement. They are signs of structure emerging from chaos. Some are seeded by the pull of young planets, others by temperature shifts or magnetic fields. In these vortices, collisions become more likely. Growth accelerates. Dust becomes rock, rock becomes body. A planet may rise from the heart of the swirl. These spirals are the sculptors of solar systems, turning the random into the aligned. Even in space, where gravity rules, there is turbulence. And from that turbulence, new form. As you rest tonight, picture a great spiral of dust, turning silently around a newborn star, holding within it the quiet beginnings of a world yet to wake. Magnetic pulses, radiation pressure, gravitational tides. Dust responds to music we don't hear. In the darkness between stars, dust does not simply drift, it listens. Invisible forces pass through space, waves of magnetism, pulses of light, tides of gravity stretching across light years. And each grain of dust responds. Charged particles spin in magnetic fields, caught in lines that curl through nebulae like hidden rivers. Radiation from distant stars pushes dust gently, bending its path, nudging it into motion. Gravity, even from faraway planets or unseen companions, tugs at it subtly, creating ripples, spirals, and arcs. These movements are slow, delicate, and complex, a choreography shaped by physics, yet felt like a kind of music. Scientists map these flows not with sound, but with light. The polarized glow of aligned grains, the shimmer of scattered starlight, the faint warmth of dust turning in infrared. Each cloud each filament, each curl of dusty structure is dancing to a song beyond our hearing, a pattern older than planets, quieter than silence, and constant across the whole sky. As you fall asleep, imagine the cosmos not as still, but humming, a slow, endless rhythm to which even the smallest things still sway. Dust listens, and it moves. Even the smallest grain feels the pull. No dust is ever truly free. In the vastness of space, even the tiniest particles are never untouched. Gravity, the most patient of forces, reaches across distance without sound or warning, binding everything it touches. From a grain of dust drifting between stars to a moon circling a planet, nothing escapes its pull. A single speck floating through a nebula may be drawn slowly toward a forming star. Spiraling in over thousands of years, dust in a planetary ring shifts subtly under the influence of a passing moon. Grains in deep space may feel the gravity of entire galaxies, their paths bent across impossible distances. They do not resist, they simply respond. Their motion is slow but constant, a falling, a curving, a yielding to the quiet grip that holds the cosmos together. Even in the silence between solar systems, gravity whispers and dust listens. It is this pull that draws clouds into stars, that shapes orbits, that carves paths through disks and rings. Without it, there would be no clumping, no gathering, no becoming. Dust would scatter, never forming planets, never cradling life. As you rest tonight, feel that truth settle softly around you. Even the most forgotten speck is part of something larger, drawn not by force, but by belonging. Nothing in the universe truly drifts alone. It may drift for millennia, but it never stops. Every motion builds towards something. In the deep silence of space, dust appears frozen, suspended in the black, unchanging. But that stillness is an illusion. Even the faintest grain is always in motion. It turns, it orbits, it spirals through the gravity of stars and the breath of solar winds. Radiation nudges it, magnetism aligns it, collisions jostle it into new paths. Though it may take thousands, even millions of years, each movement has direction, has meaning. A particle released by a dying star may drift through nebulae, pulled gently toward a new gathering place. There, it may join others, forming the seeds of a planet or the veil of a ring. Some grains are flung outward, crossing the solar system, even leaving it behind. Others are caught in atmospheres, in ice, in rock. Dust may seem passive, but it is part of the universe's slow machinery, shaping, responding, becoming. It fills the spaces between moments and places, not as emptiness, but as quiet intention. As you lie still tonight, feel that kinship, that even in stillness, you are not unmoving. Like dust, you are always becoming. Like dust, you belong to something larger, always unfolding, always turning toward what's next. Carried across intergalactic space, some dust has traveled more than we can imagine. It enters quietly, unnoticed. Not all cosmic dust belongs to our galaxy. Some grains have journeyed farther than thought allows. Born in stars beyond the Milky Way, carried across the cold stretch between galaxies. These tiny travelers are forged in distant supernovae, exhaled by aging giants and other spiral arms, and then caught in the push of galactic winds. Over eons, they cross that dark sea, untethered yet guided by gravity, by light, by the breath of the cosmos itself. When they arrive, there is no sound, no signal, but they are here, woven into the outer edges of our galaxy, swept into the halo, or falling gently into our solar system unnoticed. A few of these intergalactic grains have even been captured by spacecraft, identified by their unusual speed or direction. They carry within them the stories of other stars, other cycles, other cosmic histories. They are messengers from places we may never reach, bearing quiet witness to the shared fabric of the universe. As you breathe tonight, imagine a single grain, no larger than a whisper, gliding past Earth, older than memory, slower than thought, yet always moving. A particle of elsewhere, arriving here, nebulae, halos, glowing rings. It's dust that scatters the light, that colors the canvas, the great masterpieces of the cosmos. Those sweeping clouds, glowing filaments, and shadowed voids are not painted with stars alone. Dust is the unseen brush. It drifts through nebulae, catching starlight, scattering it into soft pastels. It veils some regions, making them shimmer in silhouette, while illuminating others with a luminous haze. What looks like cloud is often dust, suspended in gas, thickening light, bending color. It outlines the structure of the Milky Way, tracing the spirals we cannot see with our eyes. Invisible light, it hides. In infrared, it glows. It reveals galaxies behind galaxies, forming strokes and smudges across the observable sky. Without dust, there would be light, but no depth, color, but no contour. Like mist on a morning field, it gives dimension to radiance, turning harsh glare into gentle glow. Dust doesn't create the light, but it transforms it, filtering, refracting, echoing its warmth across space. As you drift towards sleep, imagine the sky as a cosmic painting, not flat, but layered, not silent, but breathing, and dust, the soft pigment suspended between stars, still drifting, still coloring the dark. It bends beams, it softens edges, it sculpts starlight as if with fingertips. Starlight seems direct, a beam sent across the void, pure and unchanged, but in truth, it is shaped by all it passes through. Dust, though small, has immense influence. A single grain can scatter light, altering its color, softening its intensity. Blue light veers more easily, which is why stars sometimes look redder than they truly are. Dust dims brightness, but not with emptiness, with texture, with presence. It wraps the edges of starlight in halos, turns glare into glow, and hides distant suns behind golden veils. The light of entire galaxies is reshaped by the dust within and around them, like sunlight through fog. What we see through telescopes is always filtered, interpreted by these drifting sculptors. Some beams curve around clouds, some disappear entirely, only to reappear further on. In this way, dust becomes an artist of light, not erasing it, but molding it into new forms. Even the stars closest to us are touched by this shaping hand, their shine altered by the fine mist between worlds. As you rest beneath your own sky, know that every beam above has been guided. That dust, silent and unseen, has softened the cosmos for your eyes, making starlight not just visible, but beautiful. They have no urgency. One grain may drift from one arm of a galaxy to another, never hurrying. Cosmic dust is timeless in its pace. A single grain, no larger than a speck, may wander for millions of years without ever coming to rest. It glides along spiral arms, through nebulae and voids, guided by the slow architecture of gravity and the quiet push of starlight. These grains are patient travelers, untouched by the rush of days, unbothered by the idea of arrival. They pass through regions of warmth, then cold. They orbit stars, get flung free, and fall again toward distant suns. Some become part of planets. Some disintegrate in a flash as they touch an atmosphere, but most simply drift, uncounted, unseen. Their journey isn't a race, but a presence. They are there when stars are born and when stars die. They outlast storms, collisions, even the reshaping of galaxies. To them, a million years is not long. It is simply part of the way forward. As you fall asleep tonight, let yourself match their rhythm. No hurry, no destination pressing in, just movement, soft, unforced, through the quiet arms of time. Far back, near the beginning, there is dust, already present, already glowing. When we look deep into space, we are also looking far into the past. The light from ancient galaxies takes billions of years to reach us, carrying with it the faint signatures of what once was. And even in that early light, there is dust, formed in the first generations of stars, forged in early supernovae. Dust was already part of the cosmic fabric just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. We've detected it in distant quasars and young galaxies, glowing softly in infrared, a quiet shimmer at the edge of time. It's astonishing to realize, before Earth, before the Sun, before most galaxies took shape, there were already particles of dust drifting in the dark. They carried carbon, silicates, and metals, tiny relics of the first stellar life cycles. Their presence suggests that the cosmos began recycling itself almost as soon as it could. Dust helped cool early gas clouds, shaping the formation of new stars and galaxies. It was there at the beginning, catching light, guiding warmth, setting the stage. As you rest, imagine a universe just starting to form, not empty, but already dusted with possibility, already glowing, already becoming. Supernovae send out waves, and dust catches them, carries the shape outward. When a star dies in a supernova, it does not end in silence. It releases waves of pressure, light, and energy that ripple outward like the memory of thunder. Dust, ancient and fragile, is there to receive it. These waves move through space, and though there is no sound as we know it, there is still vibration, expansion, and momentum. Dust absorbs this energy, heats up, and re-emits it as light. It glows faintly in infrared, a lingering trace of what the star once was. These echoes expand in circles and arcs, carried by clouds of dust that remember the shape of the blast. Telescopes capture these glowing rings around supernova remnants, not the explosion itself, but its lasting outline, traced by drifting grains. Even in death, a star sculpts space through the medium of dust. And in return, dust preserves its echo, like a fingerprint in the fabric of the cosmos. As you sleep, imagine those ripples still moving outward, long after the light has faded, quiet waves, carried by the smallest things, marking the place where a star once roared. In the nursery of stars, light filters through dust. It gives the glow its softness. Stars are not born in the open. They form deep within dense clouds cloaked in dust. This dust does not block the light completely. Instead, it softens it. The fierce brilliance of a newborn star, still wild with heat and motion, is dimmed and diffused through its dusty cradle. The glow we see is not the star's full fire, but its light transformed, spread gently by countless tiny grains. These grains scatter shorter wavelengths, leading warm reds and golds seep outward like dawn through fog. This creates the soft, ethereal glows that surround stellar nurseries, those pink and lavender nebulae that look like dreams. The dust does more than decorate. It shapes the very process of formation, regulating temperature, slowing collapse, and sheltering fragile beginnings. Without dust, the light would be too harsh, the heat too quick. But with dust, the process unfolds slowly, tenderly, over millions of years. As you drift off tonight, imagine yourself in such a nursery, wrapped in cosmic mist, surrounded by faint starlight, with warmth filtering in like a lullaby through curtains of dust. A beginning glowing softly in the dark. Perfect, tiny lattices formed in space, floating diamonds, silent and shining. In the cold reaches of space, amid the silence between stars, there are crystals, not imagined, not metaphorical, real, perfect, microscopic lattices, born of heat, forged in stellar winds. Some dust grains are silicates, their atoms arranged in orderly precision, forming structures as flawless as gemstones. Others, like nanodiamonds, are shaped in the aftermath of supernovae, or in the outflow of dying stars, pressure and time locking carbon into crystal. These grains drift quietly through nebulae, catching light and scattering it in particular ways. Telescopes tuned to infrared can detect the subtle glints of crystalline dust, their spectral fingerprints revealing their presence like soft chimes in a hidden key. These crystals aren't rare in space. They're part of the normal, ancient chemistry of the cosmos. Floating diamonds, garnets, olivine, tiny fragments of mineral beauty, weightless and eternal. They have no setting, no showcase, only the vast dark as their backdrop. As you breathe tonight, imagine such a crystal passing slowly overhead, unseen but real, a structure of symmetry and silence, turning ever so slightly, a shining order in the wildness of space. No planet begins whole. It begins as dust, soft, slow, silent, before there are oceans, before mountains, before any land beneath feet. There is dust. Around young stars, clouds of gas and dust spin into flat disks, circling like ancient clocks. Within these disks, tiny grains collide. Some stick, held together by static charge or gentle gravity. One collision becomes 2, then 10, then thousands. Dust grows into pebbles, pebbles into rocks, rocks into planetesimals, the silent bones of future worlds. This process takes time beyond comprehension. There are no sparks, no sounds, only the quiet arithmetic of accumulation. Some dust becomes part of a planet's core. Some becomes its crust. Some never stops drifting, but all of it, in some way, participates in creation. The Earth itself was once dust in such a disk, orbiting a young sun, gathering slowly toward shape. Even now, ancient grains remain locked in Earth's rocks, a memory of those earliest moments. As you rest, feel that stillness, not emptiness, but potential, the kind of stillness from which something begins. Dust is the first breath of solidity, the first gesture toward becoming, and in its silence lies the promise of entire worlds, alive not like breathing, but like memory. Dust carries time inside it. To touch dust is to touch the past, not just the past of Earth, but of stars, of galaxies, of moments older than language. Each grain holds a quiet record, where it formed, what it endured, what it passed through on its long journey here. Some carry traces of supernovae, forged in the last breath of massive stars, others condensed in the winds of red giants, or drifted cold and silent for billions of years before settling into a comet, a rock, or a ring of Saturn. Dust is alive in the way fossils are alive, not animated, but meaningful. It holds structure, it holds echoes, it holds the fingerprint of events that shaped the universe. On Earth, it settles on your windowsill, floats in golden beams of morning light, or lies buried in layers of rock and ice. But its story began far away. And long ago, it witnessed stars ignite, planets form, collisions happen in slow motion. As you breathe tonight, consider that you are surrounded by this memory, on your skin, in the air, even in your bones. Dust that once traveled light years now rests beside you, quiet and complete, like a sentence written across time. Look up at a dim glow before dawn. That soft triangle near the horizon, that's dust. It's called the zodiacal light, a pale, faint gleam that appears in the sky before sunrise or just after sunset. Not a beam, not a star, but a soft triangle stretching upward from the horizon, barely brighter than the sky itself. It's easy to miss in cities, but in dark places, quiet places, it becomes clear. That glow is not light from the sun directly. It's light reflecting off dust. Dust left behind by comets and asteroids, scattered through the inner solar system. Millions of grains orbit the sun, forming a wide, thin cloud that Earth moves through constantly. When sunlight strikes them at just the right angle, the dust glows faintly, not with its own fire, but by borrowing the sun's. To see it is to witness cosmic motion in real time. No telescope needed, just your eyes and a moment of stillness. This ancient dust, older than the moon, becomes visible in a quiet shimmer, if only for a little while. As you fall asleep, picture that glow still rising, a whisper of cosmic memory, hovering at the edge of night. Layer by layer, dust becomes stone, and stone in time becomes land, mountain, moon. The journey from dust to world is quiet but profound. It begins with the smallest fragments, drifting, colliding, clinging together in the soft gravity of a forming system. Dust becomes pebble, pebble becomes boulder, and in time, stone gathers into the bones of planets. These rocks layer and press, melt and cool, fracture and fuse. They form crusts that shift, rise, and erode. Mountains grow where once there were only drifting moats. Moons take shape from scattered fragments. Islands rise in the silent stir of tectonic breath. Every grain of land beneath your feet was once formless dust, traveling between stars. What now feels solid and immovable was once a part of the slow ballet of space. The continents we know, with forests, deserts, and shores, are built from ancient star stuff, sculpted not by speed, but by time's steady hand. Even now, dust continues its patient work, falling from the skies, settling in oceans, pressing into future stone. As you rest, imagine the ground forming beneath you, not just the land of today, but the deep history hidden within it. Dust becoming permanence, motion becoming form, silence becoming home. Old beyond measure, a few grains outlasted the fire, remnants of a time before time. Most matter was torn apart in the early fire of the universe. The first few 100,000 years after the Big Bang were searing, a dense hot ocean of particles and radiation. In that brightness, solid things could not yet form, but as space expanded and cooled, a silence fell, light separated from matter, and in that quiet, the seeds of dust were born. A few rare grains may trace their lineage back even further, to the first whispers of form, to the faint echo of the cosmos awakening. These grains drifted through a young universe, untouched by stars, untouched by planets. When galaxies formed, they passed through. When stars were born and died, they remained. A small number of these ancient particles survive today, buried in meteorites or floating in the interstellar medium. Scientists study them like archaeologists study fossils, decoding their structure to glimpse what existed before anything had a name. To imagine their age is to step outside of time. As you drift into sleep, picture one grain, untouched, since before galaxies turned, not destroyed, not replaced, just drifting, still carrying the glow of a fire that once filled all of existence. It falls on oceans, on mountaintops, on cities. You've carried it without knowing. Every day, the Earth receives a quiet snowfall from space. Invisible, weightless specks drift down through the atmosphere, having traveled for thousands, sometimes millions of years. These grains are remnants of comets, of asteroids, of stars that lived and died before our world had oceans. They settle gently on rooftops and forests, deserts and seas, blending with the dust of our own making. Some catch in your hair, some lie undisturbed on mountain slopes. Some wash into rivers or rest within the folds of your clothes. You've stepped on it in fields, walked beneath it, falling through moonlight, perhaps even breathed it in. Stardust is not rare. It is constant, a reminder that the line between here and out there is thin and always shifting. You are not separate from the sky. You live inside its memory. As you sleep tonight, let yourself feel the presence of this quiet rain. No need to see it to believe it. It is already with you, already part of you, already dusted across your path like the most ancient snow. Deep in ancient glaciers are tiny specks, cosmic archives, frozen for eons. Beneath the feet of explorers in the farthest reaches of Earth's coldest places lie records of the sky. Ice cores drilled from Antarctica and Greenland contain thin, pale layers, winter stacked on winter, going back hundreds of thousands of years. Locked within them are bubbles of ancient air, pollen from vanished forests, and specks of dust from space. This cosmic dust settled long ago, drifting down onto polar ice, preserved in silence. Scientists melt these cores drop by drop, searching for what the dust can reveal: the rhythm of meteor showers, the movement of our solar system through dusty regions of space, even clues to past supernovae. These frozen grains are not large, but they are pure, untouched by weather, unchanged by time. They hold the same structure they did when they first fell. When you hold such a grain beneath a microscope, you're peering into the sky as it was thousands of years ago. As you drift off tonight, imagine that slumbering archive, a frozen breath of space, waiting patiently beneath layers of snow. Quiet witnesses, holding memory in crystalline time. It doesn't shout, it hums through particles that shimmer in silence. In the emptiness between stars, the universe does not scream. It speaks in hushes, in glimmers, in the softest possible ways. Dust is its whisper, a language of light and shadow, of motion too slow to name. These particles do not shine by themselves, but they reflect, absorb, and re-emit the glow around them. And in doing so, they tell a story. Radio telescopes, tuned to frequencies far beyond our hearing, can catch the murmur. Infrared eyes can see the warmth of dust long after starlight fades. These whispers help us map the unseen, the hidden nurseries where stars are born, the empty places where they have died. Dust shows the edges of things. It outlines the architecture of galaxies. It curls around the arms of the Milky Way like soft breath. The messages it carries are ancient, formed in the first stars, scattered by their endings, drifting through time. As you lie in the stillness of night, imagine the universe not as a roar, but as a lullaby, a quiet voice speaking through grains of cosmic ash, humming across space, waiting only for a still heart to hear. Without dust, there would be no halos, no soft beams, no shimmer. Dust teaches light. Light on its own travels in lines, fast and direct. But when it meets dust, something changes. The particles scatter it, bend it, soften its edges. They create halos around stars, golden beams through atmosphere, shimmer at the edge of nebulae. Dust gives light texture, presence, emotion. It turns a stark glow into a painting. Without dust, sunsets would be flat. Nebulae would vanish. Galaxies would lose their outlines. The drama of the heavens would fall silent. But thanks to dust, light becomes layered. It filters through dusty clouds, illuminating them from within. It bounces off icy grains in planetary rings. It peeks through cracks, creating rays that seem to reach just for you. Even here on Earth, the golden haze at dusk, the radiance through fog, the shimmer of moonlight on frost, all shaped by dust. It is the silent choreographer of beauty. As you drift into sleep, imagine the beams of light curling through a cloud of dust far from here, slowing, scattering, learning how to dance in the dark, a ballet written in particles, a softness born from the interplay of light and matter, a glow that teaches us to pause, not separate, not foreign, but made of it. You too are a child of drifting stars, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the carbon in your breath, all of it once belonged to stars. Long ago, before Earth had oceans, before the sun had planets, ancient stars burned through their lives and collapsed in silence or in fire. When they ended, they gave themselves back to the cosmos, not in pieces, but in dust. That dust drifted for ages, pulled by gravity, stirred by light, scattered by winds older than time. Some settled into the cloud that would one day become our solar system. It formed the sun, the planets, the rocks, and eventually you. Every cell in your body contains echoes of that stardust. You are not made from distant material. You are the material. The universe did not merely surround you, it built you. You think with atoms that once lit galaxies. You breathe with molecules shaped in the death of stars. You rest even now beneath skies made of your kin. This dust is not a symbol, it is your origin. It is your present. It will be your return. So, as you drift to sleep tonight, Let yourself feel that quiet belonging. You are not small. You are not separate. You are the dust that dreams, the stardust that sings, the light slowed into life, resting for a moment in the shape of you.